Good afternoon, and here it's September 8th, to approximately, well, I don't have my phone. My computer says 2:17, but it's always off. What does your phone say?
2:17.
Okay.
Problem solved.
It's good today. So we're opening the public collective bargaining sessions. We're running from 2 to 6, depending on how, what we need. And then the session will continue tomorrow, Friday, September 9th, and we're posted to start at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Depending on how everything ends at the end, we will discuss whether, you might need, or we may need a small caucus at the beginning before we open the session at 9, and kind of that way we can give the public an idea of when the open session will occur.
Yes.
I am passing around the sign-in sheets. I'm doing 2. And in that regard, I have the Assistant City Attorney Juan Caballero, who usually sits at our table, is not here today. And in his place, we have Joaquin Rodriguez, correct? He's a first Assistant City Attorney for the City of Laredo, and he'll be sitting on here. He's not listed on the ground rules, but we still have a quorum. And I'm announcing, I don't know if we need to add it to the ground rules or if everything's okay. And if you need to add or have somebody for your team as well, just let us know.
Okay.
Here, let me pass this around. Okay, so we have a quorum. And while the sign-in sheets are being passed around, we do have, I think the first matter that we should deal with is the approaching date of the statutory impasse, which is set. We began our bargaining sessions where we were, the initial bargaining session was established, I think, July 13th, 2022. And by our calculations, which I think your side has confirmed, that puts a 60-day statutory impasse date on September 11th, 2022.
Yes.
So I have prepared, and you can look, it's a very basic impasse extension agreement for 15 days as allowed by the law. And it's for a period of September 11th, 2022, which was count as day 0, and to end September 26th, 2022, which would be day 18. So the impasse day would be the 11th, and then you count, I guess you count 1. I'm just doing it cautionary that you count 1 the next day, and then it would be 1 through 15, which ends on September 26th.
Yes.
So I'll let, if you need time to confirm that on your side, just let me know. This one. Here's 4. I have some extras for the originals. This follows the same format, or the language, the substantive language follows the same language that was used in the last negotiation session. So there's nothing different in that, and it's pretty straightforward. Y'all already have a copy of that? Life Proctor looking different now?
Oh. Yes. That's just what we see here in the room, but I can change that so you won't.
While you're looking at, do you mind if I go grab my phone?
Sure, let's go.
I left it on.
No problem. Missing papers. No missing papers.
And for the record, just so they know what the impasse extension agreement says, it's the impasse extension agreement from period from September 11, 2022 to September 26, 2022. That covers the 15 days. The undersigned parties mutually agree pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 174 Texas Local Government Code to the impasse extension agreement for the 2022 collective bargaining negotiations between the City of Laredo, Texas, and the Laredo Firefighters Association Local 872 for the time period from September 11, 2022 through the end of September 26, 2022, to allow the parties to continue good faith negotiations. And then it just agreed on this 8th day of September, and we put in the time, and then it would be signed, Carlos Lozano, the president. I had Oscar Delgado as the second vice president, but we can, whoever you determine needs to sign that. And then for the City of Laredo, it would be Roxana Stevens, myself, as the attorney for City of Laredo, and Rosario Cabello, the interim and deputy city manager. Is the agreement agreeable? Okay.
No issues. We're good with that.
Okay, I'll sign one. Here, I can, if you want a copy, or do you want? Original. Yeah, I have two, I have two originals if we need.
We can do two originals and we're just copies.
Sure.
You see it? Just for the record, we'll have Victor Torres sign for Oscar Delgado since Oscar is not present at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to put the little stamp on there? Oh, that's right. I don't know if y'all have it.
You have the other signing sheet?
It's the one around, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
No, sir.
Did you have the other one? Joaquin, did you sign both?
I've only got one.
Okay.
Another signing sheet.
Hmm.
When we pass it that way, you don't have it? There's that iPhone. So, yeah.
To be fair, there's a lot of paper,
Papa has it.
so easy to get lost.
Did you sign one?
Sí, no hay campo.
No, we still need to finish signing.
Thanks, James.
I think Joaquin is just. Oh, yeah, we haven't signed it over here. Okay. Just to give you an overview of how we wish to proceed today, we have many articles to place on the table, and it will probably, we're going to go one by one. We will need a short caucus in between after I think I'm going to present 1, 2, 3, 4. I anticipate there's going to be discussion on the first 4 that I'm going to present.
Okay.
And then we will need a short caucus before we present the final ones that we have ready for today. And then we will discuss how tomorrow, we still have others. And I know that today's is not a full day, but we're going to try and make the most of it and be as productive as possible.
Sounds good.
So before, let's see. Here are the sign-in sheets, if you want to look at them.
You're good. Thank you. The first article we're presenting today, and what we plan to do is place all of our, I know that we had some proposals that were left, initial proposals that we had, and that's what we plan to do today. So that's what we intend to accomplish, plus a couple of counter proposals. The first one we're going to hand out is Article 26 on political activities. Right now, Initially, this looks like a lot of red, but essentially what we did was we kind of reorganized this article. The 26.1 used to be the last provision, and we thought that there are some changes to it, but it seemed that the definition of political activities was at the very end, and we thought it would be better served that when we're looking at this provision, we know what the definition of political activities is. And so we have moved that up to the front. And this article is important because this actually talks about the provision in 143. You could give me a moment. I thought I had it printed out, and and it's chapter 143.086, which is from the Texas Local Government Code, and it talks. This is the 143 provision that talks about political activities. And yeah, 143.086. Yeah. And so that basically says, if you look at it, this is what this particular provision is addressing. What the article had before was it had defined, for purposes of this article, political activity shall be defined as follows. And this is what the current contract says. making a political speech, distributing political literature, writing political letters, signing a petition, and solicit, I have some different ones. Yeah. It was making a political speech, distributing political literature, writing political letters, signing a petition, and or soliciting votes and or contributions. In light of, we had a recent, there was a recent arbitration, and in the arbitration award, I know that there was some arguments, I don't know the details, but I was made aware that some of the arguments or some of the issues may have been with I guess, the city believed that a particular event may have had a political nature to it.
Mhm.
And I think, and I don't know the details, I don't have all the evidence and the transcript. And unfortunately, it was not addressed in the arbitration award, which was pretty much a summary. But we thought that this would be a good time to talk about what political activities are.
Mhm.
And as we know, the chapter 143.086 already says, and this is mirrored in the next 26.2, is that the law says, while in uniform or on active duty, a firefighter or police officer may not take an active part in another's political campaign for an elected position in the municipality. It also says, and it also says that except as expressly provided by this section, which has some other provisions, the commission of municipalities governing body may not restrict a firefighter or police officer's right to engage in a political activity. And that draws the line between, and what we're talking about is when you're on duty and in uniform versus your individual right and your First Amendment right to, for free speech and free right of association. And there's no intent whatsoever by this article to do that. I think one of the issues is that when there is an event and a firefighter is either on duty or in uniform, and there are some sort of political, some political nature to it, whether it be sponsored by an elected official and they're self-promoting, maybe they're handing out cards or banners or something that has a self-promotion on there for their position or their elected
May I ask a
position.
question? I'm
Sure.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But does that apply to, let's say, an event where you're giving out baskets, or it's a community event and you have police there and you have a fire department there in uniform? If it's sponsored by an elected official, by a councilman, by the mayor, by somebody, but they're giving up, they're not doing anything political, but they're there. Does that apply here?
So I think that's one purpose for this discussion, because I think there's a delineation between an event that's approved by the city
Okay.
and an event that's sponsored by an elected official.
But see, some of the events that are approved by the city are sponsored by the.
So I
councilman
think,
themselves.
and I believe that the way that it is that each elected official is allowed to have, and I don't recall the number, but they're allowed to have so many, I think it's 6, so many events that they can sponsor.
Mhm.
That does not necessarily mean that it's a city-sponsored event, but it's an elected official-sponsored event that they can have. Now, it doesn't mean that if they're, and the thing with those elected official-sponsored events is that there is self-promotion for an elected position, which can be deemed
I mean,
political.
we understand that,
And-
but the,
And if I may, the issue becomes not so much the union's attendance or an individual, a firefighter's attendance as an individual, it's the appearance while in uniform that a city department is promoting or backing a promotion of an elected official. And that's where the issue comes. Not so much that if you wanted to wear if it was a union shirt or things like that, that is not anything that we're wanting to touch.
and the reason why I brought it up was because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just
Sure.
gonna say, I think maybe you're not aware, but even when you think it's a elected official,
It says sponsored by City of Laredo over it. And then departments are used on working hours, I know utilities, police and fire, you're talking about, we have EMS at every single event that they have, and they have PD at every event.
But,
May I?
sure, of course.
Yes. So because it's taxpayers' dollars, it has to have the City of Laredo emblem. However, these individuals who are working public works, solid waste, they're getting paid. They're on the clock with overtime, regular overtime. This is something that is different than what you're asking for, which is business association, business league.
Well,
If we
but
have
the-
to ask you to go, to, let's say, a water distribution, you're on the clock, you're getting paid. It's not association business league.
No, well, and we get that, but it says here that firefighters are not to engage while in uniform. We're talking while in uniform.
Right.
Because association
We are
business
present in
leave
uniform.
is different
On duty.
and union is different than,
Then what's entailing here, the thing about it is that during all these events, we do set up our shop as an association. We
Right.
give out waters, we give out, gifts, toys, flyers, whatever it is. Except the city also itself requires fire to be out there.
Yes.
They take out their the smokehouse, they take out fire prevention, they start giving their part.
That's different.
That's what I'm saying. But what this is saying is that that's not
They
an,
can't be there.
yeah, that's what this is
Like,
saying.
you're
So
saying they
what-
can't be there in uniform,
So
but they are there in uniform.
let me make it, maybe
behalf
we
of the
need,
city.
maybe we need to make this more clear, because when a public works is there, or EMS or fire is there, they're providing a service
yes.
already.
Yes.
What we're talking about is not, that's your assignment while on duty. That's an assignment, and that is different when we are participating, and not when you're in uniform and you're not providing a fire/EMS.
Well, most of the
Deal.
the events are either, when they have events, they're either, we have medics, we have EMS, we have fire, but we also have, prevention, making awareness of stop, drop, and roll. We have other uniformed personnel there providing a service to the community, but not necessarily having to do with EMS or fire. It's
Okay,
just something else. So that's
Is-
what that's the only
that-
thing we're questioning, because
sure.
whenever we do political events, the union does political events. Nobody is in uniform,
Okay.
So
I think that's a
think-
discussion that we have to have. When we're doing the fire prevention, is that something that is assigned duty?
Well, it's because.
Or is it on behalf of
Our
the
concern
union?
is with our guys that when they're working, this doesn't say, the city's required or ask the fire chief, can you send some medics? They have a bike patrols. But this is saying if it's a deemed political event and you'll have different extremes of the spectrum, when some people think every single firework display is a political event, and it's truly not, but they can be accused of doing it. Let's say this Halloween, it's political season, somebody has a haunted house, one of the councilmen has a haunted house.
Which would.
Are you gonna deem it a political event, or are you gonna deem it a city event? Because at that city event, at that haunted house, I assure you, they're gonna ask for EMS to be there, they're gonna ask fire prevention to be there, and they're in uniform. And nowhere here does it say, if you're assigned or requested by city administration to be there. It's just saying, if you're in uniform and someone deems it a political event, you're in trouble.
That is a city event. Just as an example, that is a city event. We're trying to prevent some things that may be purely theirs, as an example. There was, during COVID, there was a food, everyone was providing food. The city was not sponsoring them, the council members were providing them. Fire got on it, wonderfully wanting to help the community distribute food, but it was nothing having to do with the city. They were working directly with the food banks, obtaining food and delivering them. That is something that they did on their own.
So in
And the
this,
city
so in
had
this,
nothing-
so what you're saying is this issue is not with uniformed personnel. It's with the personnel that are from the
However,
association.
the firefighters perhaps may have been wearing a uniform during that time. I forgot to say that part of it.
No.
I know that they were using vehicles at the time because we have pictures of that, but you're not there anymore.
Mhm.
So we want to be able to avoid that. If it's completely theirs and they're dealing with a food bank or some other, business that they're joining together with and providing things for the community, that is solely theirs.
So if the department sends, they say, let me bring up that. Let's say, I wasn't there, so I'm just gonna make a, I guess, narrative. So the it was hot and they were giving away, and there was people that were, sick or whatever,
That's,
and you have an emergency. So,
that is a city event.
no, and but you said it wasn't a city event.
No, in this particular
I'm
case,
saying that the food, because you brought it up, at the food drive, yeah, it was sponsored by a certain councilman, but everybody that was passing out food were
in order for
union
EMS to
workers.
be there, the chief needs to approve an
No,
EMS
and I
being there.
understand that, but what you're saying is that you saw somebody there, they saw somebody there in uniform, but most of the guys that were passing out the food were wearing union shirts.
It's because it got, food distribution or donation of money from the city got approved through city council.
That was part of it, and those were
Sure.
city-sponsored
And
events.
then, as firemen, we never went to the food bank to pick up the food ourselves. I participated in many of them. City employees were delivering them in city vehicles. City employees were putting up those big tents for us at different
I'm
locations.
talking about the homes, for example, that they were being delivered specifically to homes. These weren't the ones with the lines, these were individual drives that were being done.
Okay. That's what you mean. I mean, I was talking about the big food drives that I know.
Yeah, the big food drives we were handling,
Okay. Okay, 'cause I remember seeing the flyers out there.
like to the different churches and.
Yeah, yeah.
And what we're trying to address is not the participation in items that could be deemed community events, because an event can be a community event but have a political nature to it. What we're really trying to address is just making sure, and it protects the firefighters and the city as well, that it doesn't seem like the city is, and the firefighters are promoting a specific candidate for an elected office. And I think that's where it comes up. And then that kind of leads into a little bit of discussion that we had at the last session about association business leave, because I know that the arbitration was based on the fact of whether an event, even though it was a community event, whether it had a political nature. And I know that the arbitrator in that particular one found that ABL had been approved for an event such as that before. And so they found that this was a proper use of ABL in that particular event. And we did discuss it, and I think it's clear on both sides that association business leave is not to be used for political events. And so, because that can be seen as a city resource being used for some sort of politicking, and we want to avoid that. I think that it is clear that association business leave should not be used in political activities, which is also included on 26.3, and that's just to clarify, to make it clear.
The only thing that this article is doing by basically 1 through 8 is mirroring 143.0.86. But everything else is encompassing, so this is an attempt to circumvent the ruling from the arbitration. Because if you're expanding what a political event means, that also expands on 26.2, which turns out will affect our association business. When we're asked for community outreach, we're not asked, why are you doing it? We're being asked by the city to help out, either be a councilman or an elected official, or by one of the departments. They use all the other services, PD, fire, public works, everybody's there, liaisons are there. By doing this, you're changing the ruling on the arbitration letter.
So that ruling was for that specific event, right? It was for that specific event, and for what has been done and what you argue, or what the union had argued was past practice on this thing. So we're negotiating a new contract. We want to make sure that we address the city's concerns with regard to using city resources and giving the appearance that the city or department of the city is promoting some campaign for an elected official. those are the concerns that we're addressing and we're trying to discuss right now. And that's why we're having this discussion.
So 26.2 on your new proposal is just basically half of 26.2 in the old contract, right? It was already there, shall not engage, a firefighter should not engage in political activities while in
was moved
uniform
up.
or on duty.
It was moved
it
up.
But now with 26.3, you want to dictate what we can do with our associate business?
I think that, yes,
Because.
because I thought it was
26 Article
already,
27 is the article for association business.
right.
And
And
you can't, you're embossing, you're putting the union in Article 26 when that is for the firefighter. That's not the
For the
union. The
association.
union doesn't have anything to do with Article 26 because
Okay.
while they're
This
in
is only for
uniform.
uniform
well, then we can move that to the association business leave article, but I thought it was important to bring it up here because of the political activity aspect of it. And I think that it was clear on the record, I thought that the union understands and had stated that they understood that the association business leave cannot be used for political
The
activities.
association business leave is stated already in Article 27, right? What I'm saying is, on Article 26, this article is not for the union. This is not dictated towards the union. This one's dictated for the
So you-
firefighter on duty.
I understand,
right?
and that may
But
be
you
an
can't-
organizational.
You can't mention association business leave if we already have an article.
Well, we have one and we can, that's an organizational issue, but Article 26 is addressing political activities.
Yes, but it's,
So I think that if we're addressing political activities, our suggestion business leave cannot be used for that.
but what we're trying to tell you is this particular article is when we're in uniform. When we get ABO, we don't go in uniform to any of these events. The particular event that you keep referring to, it was a clean up a creek project, because I was one of the persons named on there tonight. And I don't think it was a political event because city works, utilities, public works, police, EMS, everybody was gonna be there. We usually, when we do some of those cleanups, we bring 15, 20 guys. We usually get one of the union board leaders to organize the guys, make sure that they're there, provide the food and everything else, and be a liaison between city personnel and our guys, and what do you want us to do? Including planting trees and all this. So a couple of guys from the board, organize the guys, help do this. But going back, Article 26 talks about only when we're in uniform. So I don't know how it addresses some of the concerns the city might have with individual distribution of food, because those people were not in uniform.
I believe that there may be some pictures that show some people in uniform with, and we can obtain those if we need to look at them off record, and that had, some political stuff behind it or on their
But
tents.
we don't dictate to uniform personnel. Anytime uniform personnel
As a union.
get dispatched to anything, either being a city event or an individual elected official event, it's through the fire chief. We have no say-so in that.
Okay,
If anything,
But-
if we want to set up shop next to him, we need to ask permission by the fire chief, hey, can we be there next to him?
okay.
Because if he says no, we just move off somewhere else
I mean,
And then
as an
is that,
association.
and then is that something that you were using association business leave, even though that there may be an elected official self-promoting for their position?
The thing is, all the events that we've attended to are city-sponsored events.
yeah, we
I say
do
elective-
city sponsor event. If you see somebody in uniform, that's not something you should address the association, that's something you address the fire chief violating a department policy, right? This just tells us that we shouldn't ever do it as an association, never ask uniform personnel to do this in uniform. But if someone's in uniform, that means they're probably on the clock. And that's with the fire chief. That's not with
So,
us.
so then, in one aspect, you're saying that this does not tell an association member what to do, but then it's telling, well, I don't, this is defining what political activities are,
Sure.
Yep.
and it's addressing the political activities within the contract.
But
And
then-
that's why we propose it this way, and those are the concerns that we have. The other concern was not only the appearance of somebody in uniform, and it should be clear to the firefighter this is where the city perceives that there's a political nature to something or an event. On the other hand, association business leave is defined, and we can revisit that article and go through it separately. But association business leave is to accomplish association business. Most of the time, it's used for, and it's outlined in the article, used for things such as conventions, trainings, things that have to do with association business, such as collective bargaining, things like that. And so, and we're not telling you not to go do these community outreach or community events. That is not the intent at all. It's the concern about using city resources or being perceived as on duty while attending an event that has some sort of political aspect to it.
Okay.
And that's
So
what we're talking
So
about.
that would automatically have to take away 26.3 because this does not entail with an association. My worry is 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are expanding what considers political activities.
9 is actually in the statute.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
The statute
Yes,
actually
9,
says
not-
it may not take an active part in another
Sorry,
person's political
7,
campaign.
7, 10, 11, 12, and 13. These are expanding on what political activities are, which would entail directly the tie into our association business. We know we're not allowed to use it for political activities, but you're expanding the definition of what a political activity is. So any event sponsored by an elected official, events sponsored by candidates for public office, events where elected officials are self-promoting. Again, on all the events on behalf of the city, the elected official from that district has their picture on it, city sponsored or not. So it can be deemed in an arbitrary manner where, hey, they can't be there on that one because he's self-promoting.
Well,
Even if it's a city sponsored
We're-
event. Ms. Cabello's said it.
so we're not telling you that you cannot participate in it. You just, number one, you can't participate in it in uniform, we all know that.
Mhm.
And number two, I think the issue is not so much your participation, we're not preventing that at all. It's the use of the city's funded association business leave for that kind of event.
Except
So
this
we're
is-
not-
The ruling already has been made clear by the arbitrator on the last one.
The ruling was made clear on that one particular event, and that's on the current contract. And so what we're talking about here is the city, and the arbitrator's ruling even says this is an issue that needs to be discussed at the collective bargaining table.
Yes.
Because apparently there is a misunderstanding about what this means.
Mhm.
And so for that particular fact scenario, that particular event, that set of facts, that arbitration ruling applies to that. So it's not in essence to say that, and that covers any event that the union would be able to use association business leave. It took those facts and circumstances and applied it in that particular instance. Here, we're taking the opportunity, just as the arbitrator said in her award, to discuss, have an open discussion about this at the table, because the city has big concerns about the use of city resources for political activities. And that's why we're having this discussion, and what the city sees as political activities. And even though it may be an elected sponsor event, it's not necessarily a city sponsored event. And in no way are we trying to prevent the union from being able to participate in that. It's just the use of ABL and the use of uniform or some sort of departmental insignia.
And we get that, we get what you're saying, man, but you're not understanding that you can't tie that article, or Article 27 to 26.3, you can't put it in here, because this is pertaining only to when we are in uniform.
I
This is-
understood that,
you know, but
and I
you
think
can't-
that we have to have this discussion along
Yes,
with
but-
this.
But if we're gonna do
and if we need to
26,
do
then
that,
why are we
then-
talking about 27? We want to discuss the political activities, and we want to discuss what you're proposing, but you're tying in Article 27 when we haven't even discussed it. You want to discuss our association business leave, then we discuss Article 27. But right now, we're in Article 26, and you can't discuss Article 27 with Article 26.
I think that, okay, when you look at the contract, you don't look at it in a vacuum. You don't look at one article alone. The entire contract has to flow, and it has to make sense. It has to be compatible. It has to be cohesive. And
But
that's
this
why, for
Article 26
instance,
doesn't apply to the union. It doesn't apply to the union. All the events that are listed here Yeah, you're right.
I
And
think
the
it
city
does
is right.
apply to the union
It-
whenever
it-
there's a use of association business leave that's funded with city money in the city, the
Yes,
city.
the association business is the leftover hours of our guys' accruals,
Funded by the city,
but they earn that accruals.
The thing is that this
funded by the city.
This-
That they
this-
earn the accrual, they
But-
work for
but
it, but
I
they can't
understand
use
that.
the accrual.
But-
So that's what makes the pool of the association business.
So is the position of the union that you can use association business leave for political
What we're saying
activities or
is
not?
that you
Right.
cannot,
The thing is, we know.
Okay.
we
And I
know-
just
we
wanna
know
make
that the
sure-
political activities that are listed in 143.086, which is expanded on the proposal you're making, that in itself is an attempt to dictate and change Article 27.4, letter D, where it reads, "The association president and or his designation president representative working on grievances, arbitration, and other labor relation problems or association business." We deem what association business is. It doesn't get dictated by the city or by the administration.
But I think that we're both on the same page
That-
that
that
it
was-
does not
that-
include
that-
political activities, correct?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But you're expanding on what political activity already means.
So, but I'm expanding because we're trying to make it clear. For instance, you're saying that that this is expanded by number 7, display of political cards, brochures, signs, buttons, and or banners. The statute says distributes a card or other political
so
literature.
we don't already
Any of
do
that
in
can be
uniform.
political literature, and we can change it to political literature, but we want you to know that when we're talking about this,
Yes, while in
this is the
uniform.
kind of, this is the display of political literature that we're talking about. And it was
While
just an
in
easier
uniform.
way for everyone to understand.
While in uniform, right? You're totally correct.
While in uniform and while using association business leave.
Not
You-
dictate
we-
what.
we can't tie
you
the
We
two
can't
can
animals together.
dictate that association business leave cannot be used for political activities.
You cannot dictate that.
That is not,
If
So
we-
if your
we go through it-
association
If we go
business-
through Article 27, ma'am, then it would be a little more clear. And
we
it
can
would-
definitely address it in Article 27.
Okay, then we'll address that one there.
But I wanna make
26.3
sure-
cannot be addressed here, in my opinion.
And that's
But-
this is our proposal.
Okay.
And this is
so
a
let me-
negotiation.
Let me take it a step further, just so it, I can let it out real quick. The 10, he mentioned 10, 11, 12, and 13, right? Firefighters should not engage in political activities while in uniform or on duty. Firefighters should not use city supplies or equipment, which is right. On 26, already in our contract, it was already there, right? On 26.2. You're right. But you're expanding on the political activities of what we can't do, and
On the
that's where.
definition,
On the
yes.
definition, yes, but that's where we're not, that's the gray area where, we get sent out, I'm on an engine, and we get sent out to, an
We're not
event.
talking about
Okay,
assignments.
no, well, we get sent out on an event with the truck, and you guys gotta stand by there. The event sponsored by a candidate of public office, an elected official, or event, all those events, that means our guys can't be there. That's
No,
where,
that's
that's
in
what
a-
we're afraid of.
A
that-
candidate, we can't sponsor a candidate. The city will
No,
not
no,
send.
No,
We're not
and
sponsoring
what he's
candidates.
talking about is an assignment to go provide fire and EMS services to an event. And that's not what we're talking about. And that's not what this political activities is talking about, because we can dictate what you do on duty. We
Yes.
can't dictate what you do off duty,
No,
right?
No, yes.
But we can also talk about what is an appropriate use of association business leave. And we have discussed on the table that both sides agree that it cannot be used for political activity.
We
And
cannot,
political activity is going to be anywhere where there's an elected official that's self-promoting for continued election in that position. And it includes political literature, it includes political banners, they're actively looking for votes.
yeah, they are, but not our guys that are there.
So if
But
if a water distribution or an event for the public, cleanup, again, food distribution, water distribution, things that are being given out to the community, which is community outreach, which was addressed in the arbitration hearing.
Right?
Because it's being brought forth by one elected official, it can be used, the way you're expanding it can be used in an arbitrary manner to single out the association and an elected official.
How in an arbitrary manner? There's nothing that prevents you from going there.
Because,
You just can't use association business.
because the
leave
grievance when it was
toilet.
filed was already used in an arbitrary manner. It was approved before, and because there was pressure brought down, it was denied for a second reason. So it's singling out,
And the issue remains, and the issue is being discussed here at the table.
Mhm.
And that's why we're bringing our proposals.
yeah, that's what I'm
Now
saying.
you
that-
remember.
Yeah,
This is a negotiation and we're allowed in good faith to bring forth proposals
Mhm.
that address the concerns that both parties have.
yes.
Okay, and you're not gonna agree immediately to
Yeah.
whatever I propose, and we're probably not gonna agree immediately on the big issues that you propose, that's why it's a negotiation.
Yes.
So, but
I-
it is a valid concern.
I just think that the way the 26 was, we were all following it to a T. That part right there, as far as the city, while all the firefighters are in uniform, that's one of those articles that you never hear anyone go against, because we know that,
Okay,
you're in uniform, you can't carry a sign, you can't carry a letter saying, I vote for this elected official. You can't do any
I
of
think they
that.
said the feet shut off.
You can't even,
Yes.
we don't even take pictures with elected officials or candidates while we're in uniform. Yeah, they'll take us, food or whatever, and some people want to take pictures, and we decline that, because for the same reason that we don't know in the end that somebody could come and say that we were being political.
well,
Right.
and that's the issue. There are pictures where there's people in uniform and there's political banners and signs or tents behind them that have that.
There is.
And that's an
Yes.
issue, that
Well,
becomes an
that's-
issue. But the deal is, on the association business leave, that I think that the union's definition of a political activity is not the same as the city's, and the concern, and we need you to understand the city's concerns with regard to using city resources in actively participating in political activities. And I know that you're saying that this arbitration, figure that issue out. It figured that issue out for that kind of a particular event. And the arbitrator even said, we need to talk about it at the table because there are some issues that need to be worked out. And that's what we're doing, because we have major concerns on this, and we want to make sure, I thought it was established that both sides understood that association business leave shouldn't be used for political activities. Political activities is being defined by this article. And so that's why we're presenting.
What we're concerned about is using public funds for a private purpose.
Mm.
If that ever happens, and someone were to say file a lawsuit, because every taxpayer,
Mm.
they pay for all this, right?
Mm.
They file a lawsuit and they allege that public funds were used for a private purpose, even if that wasn't your intent as part of your union.
Mm.
If public funds are used for a private purpose, they sue, and it's the city that gets sued and has to pay whatever damages are left. That's the problem. It may not be your intent for you to be politicking for someone.
Mhm.
You may think, oh, this isn't a political event. The problem is if someone argues that later on and a judge believes them or a judge agrees with them, then that's when the city is liable. So that's what you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, but the city is liable, not the association. You're trying to control an association with an issue that's being brought on the city's part.
Right.
This is all internal.
It's a
On the city's
benefit that's
part.
provided to the union from the city. It's a funded benefit with public monies that we have negotiated in this contract to be used for association business. Now, association business is, and if you look at it, it's to go to conventions, to get trained, labor relations, to help provide representation for your members with the city, to foster those kinds of labor business, with regard to what the leave can be used for, can't be used for political activity. Now, political activity, that does not go, it is not cohesive with what labor relations is between the employer and the employee. And that's the line that we're looking at. And the union has all, has every right to go and participate in political activities, have a PAC, and participate in community outreach that they may have some sort of aspect of that. The line that we have to draw is that association business leave cannot be used for those types of political activity.
So let me ask you a question, just before. You're saying that the association business leave is city money? You're saying that, right? Interesting. So they're not accrual, the association business leave are accruals.
Per contract,
Article 20, or is it Article?
27,
23 or 27.
22 deals
We're
with.
giving, in the contract, we're providing 1,000 hours,
Yes.
3,000, sorry.
Yeah, Article 27.4, each year during the term of this agreement, during the first 10 days of the fiscal year, the city will allocate 3,000 hours that may be used in accordance with this article. The city will track deductions from the hourly allocation as associate business leave.
So,
The majority of it is coming
from the city.
There is a part that when we do the fiscal year rollover, the calendar year for firefighters, there is an amount, some firefighters lose some accruals. We also take those accruals and put them in that pot. But normally those hours are not that many. I don't recall the last year's numbers, but we don't have a lot of hours. We don't have a
Very
lot of
minimal.
officers. Yeah, it's a minimum amount that
It's
goes
a
in.
minimal, so the 3,000, the largest majority is coming from the city, from the taxpayer.
I guess my point is 11, 12, and 13 can be misconstrued by a regular citizen because you're asked fire and EMS to be there. And if they do take a picture of someone they consider political, but they're an assignment, I mean, that's gonna put them in harm's way. Because, I mean, unless on those flyers, I mean, because those flyers say city event, and I'm talking about back to school events, Halloween, fireworks, Christmas events. EMS is usually asked to be there in some form, whether it be bike patrol, an ambulance standby, or fire truck standby. Those are in uniform, but if someone deems it self-promoting, and usually you'll have people that are always saying these are self-promoted and they're on taxpayer dollars. We've always heard that our entire lives. Even though it's a community event, the city's reaching out, movie at the parks.
So again, we're not talking about an assignment while
Yeah,
you're
but-
on duty. And this
Someone could take a
language hasn't
picture.
changed.
Someone could take a picture.
This
and
language
say
hasn't
that they're doing
changed from the
political
last
event.
contract. It's just separated out.
Yeah.
A firefighter shall not engage in political activities while in uniform or on duty. A firefighter shall not use any city supplies or equipment for such activities.
When we
When
take
you-
ABL, when we take ABL, we are promoting the union. There's no reason for me to go in a fire uniform and do any assistance out there. We always want to promote the union. We provide our guys with T-shirts, polo shirts from the union. We're always trying to promote the union. We're not trying to promote Laredo Fire Department when we're off duty. We're trying to promote our union and say that we're giving back to the community. So if someone takes a picture at a park, whatever that event is, they're in uniform, they're not really on behalf of the union there. They're not. I mean, we would never tell anybody, show up in a firefighter T-shirt, please. We want to promote the fire department. No, we want to promote our organization. And that's why I guess you're getting so much pushback, because this, we've always deemed it as, guys, in your uniform,
You can't do
avoid
this.
this.
Yeah.
Avoid this.
This article has always been dictated directly towards the uniform personnel, and we've been following that to a T.
I mean, it's
That's what I'm saying.
there's
The only
it's in
thing-
our contract, it's in department policy. They mirror each other.
And I want to address the issue about including association business leave and political activities in the article entitled political activities. I think it would be disingenuous if I brought and then later, after we're doing this, what political activities is defined as, then submit a separate article on Article 27. And that's not the intent. We're not playing games here. We're not hiding the ball. We're trying to put this issue on the table because it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, so the
And-
issue
and
is,
that's
it wasn't the
why-
political activity, the issue is the use of association business. That's what
And,
you're,
and what,
that's what's
and
coming
what,
forward.
and political activities, because there is some aspect of a political activity that has become a concern with some events that the union has deemed city-sponsored events, when they're in fact really sponsored by elected officials, but they're allowed to have so many sponsored events as elected
So
officials.
when the city logo is on that flyer, is it or isn't it a political event, or is it a city-sponsored event?
There's a process, I believe, for a city-sponsored event. Is that correct?
Because if I'm not mistaken, all these,
When you see a city logo, I don't
Even
consider
worse.
it a political event, like you said.
yeah, if you have,
So
you know,
it's a self-promotion.
if you have Public Works, you have PD, you have fire, that has to be a city-sponsored event.
They're all there on assignment.
Well, yeah,
Because if
that
was
has,
EMS or fire
That's what I'm
prevention,
saying.
they would be there on assignment.
But is it a political event?
No, if it's a
If the city logo's on there, my question is it a political event or is it a city-sponsored event?
So these are also items that we have to address with our council. It's something that legal has been working through, that we need to come back and address with them also, because they're also in that gray area, and it needs to be defined better. And
but
I think
until that
Well,
specifically
this is hand in hand.
yeah, until that specifically gets identified, then it can be brought to this table,
I wouldn't-
because.
We only negotiate every 4 or 5 years, guys.
I mean,
I
I
know.
wouldn't
Putting
feel
it on the-
comfortable if we don't define what
What
these
exactly,
are,
yeah.
because there's a city logo on there. I mean, as a taxpayer, I'm thinking this is a city-sponsored event. I'm not going to a political rally, I'm going to a city-sponsored event, the city logo is on there.
Anybody?
Anybody can attach a logo to something. Not
Yeah, we know.
sponsored
Again,
event.
that's not on our part, that's an internal with the city, where you're asking us to give up or change the definition or a right that we already negotiated in the past, because you're having an internal issue.
No.
Again,
no.
any
The-
event that we've gone to has fire, has EMS, has
And we're
public
not
works,
talking
disagree
about,
with
we're
that.
not talking
I
about the
disagree with that.
assignment of a service that's being provided by the city.
Mhm.
And this has not, that's not the issue.
Mhm.
The issue is when, and I think that we're focusing on the uniform, I believe that's clear.
Mhm.
And I think that the union usually tells the firefighters on duty, if they're providing services at a political event that they have to be at, some festival. Things that would cause an appearance that would show that they're somehow politicking, or pictures or things like that.
That's
I
not,
imagine-
that's not within our responsibility, that is to the city. We don't dictate anything to uniformed personnel at all.
I thought you just said that you advise your
Yeah, for
Your
them not to
membership-
Yeah, well, they know, we tell them,
Right.
hey, this is what you can and can't
protect
do.
yourselves.
But if they're dispatched,
and
if they're,
that's not
if
what,
they're assigned to it, we don't have control over them at all. We don't go take pictures with them, with the officials. The officials will approach them, hey, because this is one of the services the city provides, takes picture of them. That's beyond our control. That's the issue that needs to be addressed to our administration. Why are they there? We're there for our reason. We don't dictate, we don't request, any other services from fire, because we know we can't. Because if it's political, which right now, like I say, 10, 11, 12, and 13 basically can throw it up in the air of, randomly what's gonna be named political or not.
so is this an event sponsored by a person or a candidate running for public office? That's not a political activity?
Okay, within what time frame?
Anytime.
Because if he's up for reelection 3 years from now, well, it can be dictated where he's setting himself up for his reelection 3 years in the making. If they just got elected, they can start working from day one upon their reelection. Now, it doesn't mean specifically I'm gonna go to you, ask for your vote, but if I come to your neighborhood and wanna do a cleanup because, hey, this neighborhood needs it. If the neighborhood needs a drainage and they wanna go out there and work on it, if the park needs trees, they wanna go out, they're working out there. Entailed, I guess, from their position.
But it's also self-promotion for their elected position, correct?
So the city already does that. Every event we've been to has city funds in there. City funds by either fire, EMS, Public Works, PD.
I mean,
They're all uniformed personnel
in-
there. Am
in
I
city
correct?
Council chambers, we take pictures with political people when we get some kind of award, employee of the month, quarter, some kind of special recognition for whatever.
That's
I mean,
official business though.
Sure.
That's official business of
No,
council.
I
And nowhere
understand.
does it say here, any of the things that you're talking about. It's pretty specific. And remember, the reason for the specificity isn't to, I guess, give you any more restrictions. It's because in the last arbitration award, the arbitrator believed that political activities was ambiguous, right?
Mhm.
So what do you do to clear up ambiguity?
But that's not.
Yeah, but that's not what
Okay,
this
but
is doing. This is
not
leaving it
clearing
vague.
up because that's what we're saying. You gotta get more specific and say, if it includes city logo on the advertisement for that event, then it shouldn't be deemed political, because right here, we keep saying.
It's
you're
part of
setting
their
up our guys
responsibility
to
as
say-
they're, if they're doing a
Because
good
city
job and
sponsors
people
event,
vote for that
anybody
person, it's because that's they're doing their job.
Doing it for personal gain, whether it's a city-sponsored event or not, we're gonna get in trouble as uniformed personnel being assigned there. Because someone took a picture and said, you're there for political gain.
But again, if you're there on assignment, I mean, we can't control what people are doing, taking pictures, right?
Mhm.
But if you're there on assignment, then the presumption is you're there to work. And if you're there to work, then it is public funds for a public purpose. So that would not fall within the categories of this article. It wouldn't. It would not. When you are on assignment. Now, if you want clarification,
But actually, I beg to differ because Article 26 specifically entails when on assignment, what you can do in uniform. What the issue they're talking about concerns Article 27, the use of association leave, and you're expanding on the definition of what political activities is, which is changing the wording of another article.
if I may,
Right.
it's
So
both the same.
So-
It's both the same.
it goes hand in hand, but it's not the same.
It's the same.
So-
Okay, I'm sorry. Rob.
So here, this is the point I think that you're missing, is that a firefighter shall not engage in political activity while in uniform or on duty. And then we're defining what political activity is. And nowhere in the definition of political activity is being on duty and providing a fire or or EMS service as part of your job. That is not what political activity is.
Mhm.
Now, if you're there and then you go and you're assigned there, you're within your duty as assigned by the chief or your supervisor, and then you go and you grab political brochures and start handing them out, that's a problem.
That's a problem, yes,
That's a problem.
yes.
And those are the things that we're talking about. Separately, a firefighter needs to be clear and know that, when they get off of duty, they may still be on their uniform and, my friend is running for this office, I'm gonna go stop by.
Mhm.
They need to know the rules, that they can't go to that party
Mhm.
and inadvertently, and wear their uniform. It needs to be clear that if they're gonna go, they can they have to take the uniform off.
Mhm.
Doesn't prevent them from having a union shirt or any kind of union deal.
Mhm.
But that's the kind of thing that we're trying to address. And the on duty and providing your services and your assignment has never been part of this particular article. And that part of the article hasn't changed. What we're talking about is what is a political activity outside of your duties.
Mhm.
And that's what we're addressing. And again, on the ABL, we're discussing it here
Mhm.
because it is important under political activities, and we're looking at what the definition is, and we need to make it clear that association business leave shall not be used for any political activities.
You want to look this over? Go on to the next article?
Yes. Okay. Yes. The next article that we're presenting is 32. You have copies?
Just before we move on, 26.6, add reference to
Oh,
statute regarding. is
That was my own note. That's a,
Oh, okay.
just
That's all I-
delete that.
Sorry about that.
That by reference statute regarding political activities on uniform.
Yeah, that was the one I
Did
just
you mean
cited,
a-
143.086.
A policy,
Or-
something from the department already has in place, or?
No,
Not the disregard.
No, the Texas Local Government Code statute I cited at the very beginning. Here's the next one, is Article 32, the maintenance of standards. I think that what we're attempting to do is clarify the intention of this article. It has been brought up in several grievances that if something is, that if there's an alleged violation of the contract, it says that it violates the maintenance of standards. And I think, we haven't, it was brought up in this last arbitration, and all that the arbitrator said was that there was no evidence of a violation of the maintenance of standards, even though she did find that ABL was properly used in that particular instance. The arbitrator stated that there was no evidence of a violation of maintenance of standards. And I just wanted to make clear, or attempt to make clear, what the maintenance of standards is. And we had a very short discussion about this at the last session. But what we understand the maintenance of standards to be is to maintain the standards set forth by the provisions of this contract.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's all that this does. We've added, it states 32.1, hours, wages, privileges, and conditions of employment in effect at the time of the execution of this agreement and subject to this agreement. I added that because that just means all the provisions that are within that agreement shall be maintained for the life of this agreement. And that just brings in every single article from the contract.
Mhm.
The association and the city shall mutually agree that any additional privileges may be granted or removed at the discretion of the fire chief without imposing additional contractual obligations. And that's the law. There's nothing, we don't want anything in this contract to prevent the chief or the city from being able to be more generous at a time when they can be, whether it be in some sort of funding or, some sort of privilege that's granted. But because it's not within the contract, it doesn't create an additional contractual obligations. Those are set forth within this contract. 32.2 remains the same. In the event of a reduction in force, the city shall take all action in accordance with Chapter 143 of the Texas Local Government Code. And then we proposed 32.3, so that it is clear that this Article 32 maintenance of standards is not in conflict with the rights of management as pursuant to Article 6. And that states, nothing in this section is meant to eliminate or limit the rights of management as described in Article 6. And that again just creates the clarification that Article 32 is a part and cohesive with the entire contract and not in conflict with any of the other provisions in the contract. And that the maintenance of standards means that the provisions that are agreed to by both parties will be maintained throughout the life of the contract.
So the intent is to clarify, but basically leave the article within what it's
It's just our proposed clarifications are not substantive in nature. It doesn't change the article, and it just clarifies it in terms of, when I'm looking at it and I'm reading the contract and I'm trying to understand what the maintenance of standards is, and then it's part of some grievances, and then one that goes to arbitration, we were saying, okay, maybe we can get some insight as to what this means, because I have not been part of this contract. It was unclear. So this just provides that clarification so that when maintenance is, when, somebody's looking at this contract 4 years, 8 years, 12 years from now, it is clear as to what the maintenance of standards means.
So what you're saying is if something's in the contract, civil liberties, and trying to dictate what I do while I'm on that exchange, my time off, someone's working for me, he has that right without coming back to the contract? Because payback, there's an exchange there. It's mentioned in our contract, we're allowed 5 exchanges. Now he came out with a memo that he defined what we can do while we're on that exchange. Violating my civil liberties, disregard the contract. But now you're saying, hey, that's under management rights, you can dictate what you do on your time off?
No, so I don't have all the facts as to the situation that you're talking about, or the example. But this is meant to say, this article is intended to say all of the provisions of the contract remain that, and that that the city and the union will maintain those standards throughout. So if for instance, in your example,
Well, that's.
the contractual obligation is that you get, and I don't know, which article is that says the exchanges?
Article 10.4, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
Let me-
if in Article
Let me
10.4,
just make that clear. I believe. Let's just set this up. And see,
if
10.4.
Article 10.4 says that it says the firefighters may be granted up to 5 exchanges per month upon the approval of the fire station's district chief, captain, or acting captain. Further provided that the person filling in as part of the exchange is qualified to perform the duties for the person requesting the exchange, and that such exchange will not disrupt normal fire department operations. Shift exchanges will be paid back hour for hour. Date of payback must be stated on work exchange form, but may be changed as needed and agreed upon by employees. So
This is also the article where you all propose language change, which affects the intent of that article. Like I say, this article had been going back to maintenance of standards. This article had been negotiated and paybacks were excluded specifically for what it said there. Shift exchange will pay back hour per hour. Date of payback must be stated. It can be changed. All you need to do is resubmit a paperwork, and they normally let the district chief station or the hub stations know. The
yeah, I
article-
think the proposed, the language change that we proposed here was to address a notification problem that was happening when the supervisor
The only thing on that
didn't know
language.
who was coming in.
Yeah, and on that language, we need to do a counter proposal because the way it's written
Sure.
also affects policy that can go kind of hand in
I mean,
hand.
Can you let me know which memos you're talking about so that I make sure that because I don't get those I'm not,
sure.
We can get it from Reyna.
if you want to tell me at least the date or the title.
August 16th, 2022, it says memorandum outside employment. Actually, I can, she should have it, the memo. It states here, we remind uniform personnel they're granted up to 5 exchanges and/or paybacks per calendar month per policy. That's not what the contract states. The contract stated only exchanges. It was left out specifically about paybacks because we understand it had to be paid
We
hour
have
for
to
hour.
pay.
Is this on the outside employment?
Yes.
Okay, and so
But
that's
but
being,
That's on the memo that
That's
says
not a
outside
memo
employment.
about exchanges. That's got
Okay.
nothing to do with outside
Yeah.
employment.
oh, okay.
Well, it's stated subject of outside employment.
Yeah.
But what's stated in that memo is changing Article 10.4. So that's what I'm saying, going back to maintenance of standards, is the arbitration, all the grievances that are filed are because every time that a chief wants to impose an SOP or puts out a memo on an article that's already been negotiated in the past, because they're not privy to it, they believe that they're in the right to do it. That is affected by the maintenance of standards, the way it's written. So I'm saying, like, this memo is in specific violation of this because this was already negotiated a long time ago.
So if you feel that that memo in particular is somehow violating the provision of the contract, the clarification of the maintenance of standards doesn't change your ability to allege this, you need to maintain the standard of this provision. So the clarification doesn't change what it means. It just makes sure that everybody is on the same page about what it means, that the contractual obligations in this contract are going to be maintained throughout the life of the contract. And so, and you have the grievance procedure to address that, issues that come up like that you believe, okay, well, on this exchange, I believe it's violating this particular deal, and if that becomes a maintenance of standards issue as well, then you bring it up. So
All right. We'll get
so
you-
the
we'll get you a
intent is just
copy.
to clarify, it doesn't change what it means.
That's one of the question was because they referenced the rights of management.
No, the rights of management are defined in Article 6, right? And then the rights of management are limited by the rest of the provisions, right?
I don't know. This memo violates a whole bunch of articles.
So you're talking about one specific instance, and that's why we have the grievance procedure and the arbitration. And there's always going to be, there's going to be things that happen where one side believes that the contract's being violated or the other side, and that's why those procedures are there.
And
But
also, without imposing additional contractual obligations, does this circumvent past practice?
no, past practice has its own legal elements to it, and this doesn't do that. This is something like, okay, I'm gonna allow, we have so many people that I'm gonna allow 10 exchanges, because I can right now. And then you pull back to whatever the requirement is on the 5 in the contract. Because they were giving you those extra exchanges and then they took them back, it doesn't create the contractual obligation that now you have to have 10 exchanges. That's the scenario that would explain that.
That was for me? Oh, for you.
Past practice is a whole other, that's a whole other legal, it's a legal issue. And there's elements that you have to prove in an arbitration to talk about past practice. So this doesn't eliminate the ability to raise that.
Right.
I guess the next one.
Yeah, this is a memo that came out. The first bold is the one that actually changes the language.
Okay, thank you. And this is the memo with regard to the maintenance and standards article that we were discussing.
Which violates 10.4. That's the specific language that it's changing.
And this particular memo, is that being addressed with between the chief and the union? There's discussions on that?
We already sat down specifically on this issue.
Okay,
But they never came back, so.
They never came back with a revision,
He had
but
a
it
few
is,
grievances
but
over
it is
that.
being enforced. So that in itself is grounds, we have to
It's
agree.
not being enforced.
Yes, it is.
So seriously.
The list already was put out about who's approved without actually coming back with any
We
type of
already, we're all
revision.
required.
Was anyone
It's not
denied?
been approved.
No.
Was anyone denied? I guess-
Well, that's the thing is that
We created a new condition of employment by me having to ask
Lot of-
what I can do on my off time.
Yeah.
We created a new condition of employment.
A condition of your employment?
Yes.
No. This would be a condition to your outside employment.
Well, yeah, but it
Not a
affect,
condition to your primary employment.
well,
That's the
it
difference.
is, because if it's enforced, we're gonna get, again,
But it's not being enforced. It has not
It
been
hasn't been.
enforced.
yes,
And you said it was. It
But
was
it's
not,
there.
to be
but
clear.
it,
People are
It's there.
complying with there's a difference.
Mhm.
People are complying with the new policy,
Mhm.
but there hasn't been enforcement. And from what I heard last time, your issue was when is the chief going to arbitrarily and capriciously deny someone? And that hasn't happened yet.
yeah, but not everybody's been approved. So it has been.
So
No
no
one
one denied?
No, but not everybody's been approved. Everybody that submitted the paperwork has not been approved.
As of yet. So
As
there
of-
could be approvals pending, that's it.
Well, yeah, but the thing
They
of
haven't been denied.
to go through it, it's specifically, I was one of the first ones to fill it out, and I still haven't been on the approval letter. So
When was it
again,
submitted?
when was it submitted?
So most of my
Uh,
crew submitted it at the same time that I did, and they were on the approval list, and I'm not.
Yeah, so you see how, when we go back, because you were in the meeting, where we said this can be applied in an arbitrary manner. This can be construed as against our First Amendment rights because we are the fact of part of the union. It said specifically, we needed to file if any. Even though it's not supposed to be enforced yet, and we're not being approved. So, huh?
Are you not working your outside employment because you haven't been approved?
No, but we put the union, so
Yeah.
technically, yeah.
Yeah.
We are.
I don't understand.
We
As
get
board
compensation.
members, we get paid, so his memo specifically said any form of compensation.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
So as a board, he's approving us to be union board members or not.
then this is where the grounds of all of this comes back to determining a term interpretation
It says if you
because
earn
of
a
the
wage,
maintenance of standards where he
then he
can
has to
arbitrarily
approve it.
start changing
Board
language
members
and
earn a
it's right
wage
there in front of
from
you
the
in both
union.
languages.
okay, but you're still able to do your union duties and?
I don't know. I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
You haven't
okay.
gotten paid?
No.
I have it in my backpack. I do have it right here.
But-
I can't cash it because, again, I haven't been approved. So it is being enforced. I haven't been denied, but without approving me, you in fact are enforcing a memo that's violation of at least 6 articles in this contract. So by putting also this, it also affects that. So
And
thi- this is,
you're
this
doing
is,
the
this
union,
is,
the union business because you're getting a stipend or compensated that you're putting that?
no, I'm doing union
Mm.
business because I believe I'm qualified and with the rest of the people at the table,
Oh.
we fight for our rights. That's why we do union business
Right.
for. It's not for the compensation.
No, but that, what I was asking for was that you submitted it because you receive a stipend or
Yes.
some sort of compensation?
Yes.
Okay.
So
But his memo specifically says if you earn any type of pay. He mentioned wages or compensation.
So this memo, is it a policy that is, I thought there was a policy that is still being
Rewritten.
rewritten.
Well.
So there
Okay.
shouldn't be any
But we
approval
were
or
told
denials
it's
put out
coming
yet.
back in a day or two. And we met on a Thursday.
August 18th.
And we said, Ernie said, we'll be right back. We'll have something by the end of the next day. The chief will have it and then we'll sit down with you and, 3 weeks later, we're still in limbo.
See,
In limbo and
this
it's being
issue,
enforced. Now, has he looked into what we're doing on our exchanges? I don't know. But that memo says the only things we can do on an exchange. So at any given time, he can check and, I don't know, come down with disciplinary action. We can follow those 3 things in there. It's pretty limiting to our civil rights. What he wrote in there.
So, the chief is saying he received over 150 of them and that they're still processing. It's not that there's any one that they're holding back.
And I believe the revision is now, there's already a revision completed.
Mhm.
And it's like what we talked about when we did speak. The presumption is going to be approval, and then we're going to list specifically what are grounds for not approving some form of employment. And we had talked about that already. So there is. a
well, we talked about that, but it was still to the understanding of that's a condition of employment and it still violates. So at any point that there's an approval requested, it's gonna be a violation of a current article.
I mean, if you look at
So that's
that
what I'm saying, like-
policy, we can't sleep. If you look at the policy, you guys read it, we can't sleep, firemen sleep. We can't sleep, we work 24 hours. It literally says there, you can't be tired.
So, okay, we'll look at this and
It's a very sticky situation.
review that.
Of any language being changed. Because again, while we're here negotiating, this is still currently in limbo. And it automatically will become past practice because it gets negotiated through. We're holding steadfast on language where it was already negotiated by our previous negotiating team throughout the past. So a lot of this tends to, again, and this is why we hold steadfast on the association business. This is being circumvented from rulings and negotiations that happened in the past.
Right.
So that's why, like, I
So-
understand.
So arbitration rulings are on the current contract, and that's why we sit whenever the expiration of the contract's coming up
Well,
to
isn't
discuss
any
it.
arbitration ruling, not just on the current contract? If it was 10 years ago, still a ruling that holds steadfast, isn't it?
No, unless unless it's been discussed and addressed in collective bargaining in a
And
new
if it hasn't?
contract. If the article hasn't changed,
And it stays,
then it,
that ruling still holds
Right.
true. So that's what I'm
So-
saying, it's not just in this past current contract. Any other arbitration ruling that has not changed any language in the contract still holds.
right. But the ruling that we're dealing with now says that this needs to be addressed at the collective bargaining and it needs to be understood between the 2 parties. So that's why we're doing this, and that's why we're raising our concerns here.
Okay.
And the maintenance of standards, if you look at it, it in fact bolsters it. Because it says, this applies to the provisions of this contract. And so if you look at it, it bolsters that and it makes it clear what that maintenance of standards is. The reason that, we also put in that, the referral that it doesn't limit Article 6, because the management rights are listed in Article 6. Whatever that we have negotiated away in management rights are in the rest of the articles. But we still maintain those management rights, and we don't want that main set of standards is not meant to limit what is negotiated already in the Article 6, okay?
So,
No, the one we're
So,
negotiating, the
that's what I'm saying, like-
proposed new one.
okay,
The,
so.
whatever the current, if we agree to a contract, it would be subject to that agreement. The agreement is good for the term that we agree to,
Okay,
okay?
so again, if we haven't touched on this memo, that's still in limbo. We sign off on the contract. that memo no longer in play because we're going by what states here was negotiated in the past.
So usually when we have issues like this, we work them out before the end, before we finalize this negotiation.
Yeah.
Because it's an important issue that goes to a specific article. And, you know, sometimes we look at pending grievances and address those issues and try to fix them in the contract.
That's what I'm
So
saying,
this is,
that's why.
this is actually something, you're right, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and that's why I said we'll review it, because this is something that we need to look at and address, and then have a discussion about, and how we're gonna resolve it in getting to a contract. Because what we don't want is we don't wanna get a contract, and then the next day face, okay, we have a grievance.
Yeah.
That is not
Because
that's not where we
that's
wanna wind up.
Currently where we're at right now.
Right, and that's why it's good that you brought it up, and that we're dealing with it now, because this is a time to deal with it.
Okay.
Okay?
Next. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I'm missing, okay. No, didn't I have, this one? Did I pass that one on? Okay. There's one I failed to print, but, I do have one more. This one's gonna be, a big discussion, so what we'll do is, after this, we'll caucus, I'll print that other one out, and I did need a caucus before I get, the other ones,
Okay,
but, let's see.
so next caucus, lengthy caucus.
No, well,
No, to print out,
yeah.
to print out one and then the
I
other,
Yeah, I
whatever.
started fighting with the printer, so hopefully, it's been working today, knock on wood.
yes.
But yes, it'll be. Depending on how, let's talk about this article, and then we'll see where we are on time and how we're gonna situate the caucus.
Okay.
We're gonna do. No, I just didn't print it. I'll pass it. We'll do this one, and then we'll do the other one. We don't have any more. I have a. I know, I didn't print it, yeah, I didn't print it. Okay, the next article. Oh, I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, we didn't give it, you didn't give it.
Oh,
So let me go ahead and,
I already have copies. Oh, I printed the new one out, that's why. Here, pass this. This is the.
No, going back.
Yeah, it was the printer. I didn't press the button before it started printing.
On 29.1, it hasn't gone up to 40.
what?
29.1, the first one, the life insurance,
Let me,
I think it's gone up to 40. Since we've,
is this it? Is that what
Since the
the,
last negotiations.
just, I think, maybe a year or two ago, that was raised by the city, I think.
was it raised by the city for the city employees? Huh? Okay.
And the 70 stays? I'm asking, and the 70 stays? It's a question.
Okay. So on 29.1, I have noted your question. Currently, the contract as it reads provides the $35,000 life insurance with double indemnity accident policy for each member of the fire department. We just added the title just so it's clear, you know, what it is, and we titled it life insurance. In addition, the employer shall provide an additional $70,000 accidental death policy for each member of the fire department.
Question. Can we put health, dental, and life, maybe, the title?
Oh, we can change the title because there are dental benefits. Or we can put health benefits. We can work on the title. That's something that we can work on together. On 29.2, this is just to clear, what we did was we separated out so it's clear and more helpful for the administration of this, is 29.2 and 29.3. 29.2, we're titling that dental, and it's just talking about dental. The employers, it doesn't change anything. This is currently what has been happening with the current contract has. The employer shall provide a dental benefits plan without charge to each employee, as is currently provided to regular city employees. In addition, the employer shall pay 50% of the monthly contribution for the employee's dependents on said dental benefits program. Dependents shall be defined and limited to the employee's spouse, his/her children, and any children legally adopted by the employee or the spouse. This coverage shall only be diminished during the course of this agreement if the coverage for the city employees is diminished. So nothing in that change other than we're separating out the dental. Then we created 29.3, which then addresses the medical benefits, and that's titled medical. The employer shall provide a health benefits plan, which includes benefits without charge to each employee, as is currently provided to the city employees. In addition, the employer shall pay 50% of the monthly contribution for the employee's dependents on said health benefits program. Dependents shall be defined and limited to the employee's spouse, his/her children, and any children legally adopted by employee or the spouse. This coverage shall only be diminished during the course of this agreement if the coverage for the city employees is diminished. So it mirrors the same language as a dental, it just separates out the dental and the medical.
My question.
Yes.
Why did you, in 29.2, you added regular city employee, but in 29.3 you didn't?
Oh, it's supposed, on 29.3, it is supposed to say regular city employee.
What
It
is-
probably didn't copy and paste.
What entails not a regular city employee?
Public safety, you know, anybody that's subject to a collective bargaining agreement.
So then we're not entitled to?
It says you are currently
No.
provided
No,
to
no,
as
what would,
those regular.
what would,
I'm a regular employee, you're a collective bargaining,
A non-regular would be a temp also?
a temp,
A
seasonal.
contract.
So
Seasonal.
they literally have to say that we have their rights.
Yes,
We have the rights of the regular city employee.
yes.
I just had a question. I didn't understand why,
Is that what I'm understanding?
why you would
Yeah.
add regular city
We
employee?
put regular because because firefighters, police officers, and civil
Temporary.
service and at-will people, they're all considered city employees. And what we're trying to differentiate here is to make sure that you as a you as a firefighter, subject to a collective bargaining agreement, is going to get the same benefits as a city employee that does not have collective bargaining rights.
We can even go further and put regular full-time employee
With benefits.
with benefits. If you
Yeah,
want,
there's
if you
a-
wish.
There's a clear distinction.
That's why it was
No,
important.
even if you take it out, what would be the difference?
Because there's other employees who don't have benefits.
That's kind of what was my question. That, I thought like if you had a temp, aren't they, temp agency employees?
We have city temp, part-time employees
Temporary.
that are not part of an agency.
And we also have employers that don't have benefits and temporary staff
Seasonal.
members that don't have benefits. We have several categories.
We have seasons.
Continue, ma'am, sorry.
Okay.
That's okay. So regular full.
Regular full-time.
Full
with
benefits,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you all okay with it?
It's your proposal, man.
No, I just don't want you to say, you're surprising us.
No, that's why I just had a question, and so I just
Okay.
need a clarification.
The intent of separating dental and medical is for what again?
An administration application, so if you read the previous article,
Mhm.
it's all mumbled together.
Mhm.
If you take a look at it, you can't tell.
Mhm.
So what I did, because we administer it, and for the next people that will come in and administer this article,
Mhm.
they're gonna know that we're talking about life, and then we're talking about dental, and then we're talking about medical. They're not all the same, there's different rates, there's different things that we look at. So that's
Yeah,
the only
but
reason.
you do the same thing, no matter the rate, you still provide it for free for the employees,
Yes.
and then 50% for
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
I guess that's why, I mean,
Just a little bit clearer.
I guess. Yeah.
On 29.4, we titled it death benefit. And we just clarified here, this is what's happening and what has happened. The city shall provide a death benefit in the amount of $2,000 at no cost to the retiree upon death. The death benefit is payable to eligible beneficiaries after the retiree's death. Is that correct?
Upon
Jen?
Yeah, it wasn't an employee, they only get this benefit when it's a retired individual and they pass
So
away.
the employee doesn't.
The employee goes back to
Article one.
life, it goes back to Article 1, so when you're an active firefighter, Article 29.1 is applicable to you. And that's the
And this,
distinction.
in 29.4 with this, what was 29.3 before, but the last sentence said the death benefit is payable to eligible beneficiaries upon the retiree's death. So that was just correcting or clarifying the first sentence because this was for a
Yeah,
retiree.
I mean,
death
there's
benefit.
really nothing wrong with saying employee upon retirement, and upon death.
Had there been an issue with this before, where it was read that they tried to do the life insurance at the death benefit?
It's never been an issue.
Okay, no.
I don't know, I'm just kind of confused.
Well,
So
if
that's
when
a
you
re-
when you
that's a
retire,
death
you're no longer an
benefit for-
employee,
for the
you're a retiree.
So you would.
Yeah,
So
so you-
retiree death.
But they do say
benefit.
once a firefighter,
So
always a.
she's clarifying because at the very end, it says.
No, I get that part, but I'm just saying like. you know,
Most people
retire-
understand it, so it's good for them to know that that benefit is there for the retiree.
So I guess if you're gonna clarify, I guess, put retiree death benefit.
Okay, yeah, I actually put that note on there. 29.4 should be retiree death benefit.
Yeah.
Talk about the recurring benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 29.5 is titled retiree medical. And this doesn't change what's happening. It's just a clarification for the administration of this. And it is when an employee retires from the Laredo Fire Department and begins receiving a pension under the Laredo Firefighters Retirement System, LFRS, formerly known as the Firemen's Relief and Retirement Fund. We added this so it's clear. The city will pay the retiree's individual medical coverage until the retiree reaches the age of 65. Upon reaching Medicare Part A and B eligibility status, which is age 65 or over in the parentheses, the retiree will enroll into the Medicare supplemental program 3 months prior to their 65th birthday. The city's contribution will cease when the retiree is eligible for Medicare. Retirees ineligible for Medicare shall be covered by the city's health benefit plan as long as they live. Employees, retirees, and retiree dependents shall receive the same health insurance options at the same cost as the city's retired employees.
Is cities
And
regular.
that last sentence was just moved.
It shouldn't say supplemental, that's totally different thing. Medicare is one thing, Medicare supplemental is something else.
That's correct.
That's what,
So it shouldn't
AARP
read-
type of
It
thing?
should, it shouldn't say the word supplemental. Like,
It
if you
is-
want to, if you want them to go into Medicare, they go into Medicare at age 65. Medicare supplemental is that other 20%
So-
that I think
That's
correct.
Hartford or somebody.
So let me
had
explain,
done.
that's a confusing part. So when a retiree hits the age of 65, they get a notice 3 months prior to them turning 65, and it says, you're about to be 65, and you're gonna go into what's called the Medicare Part A and Part B. There is an amount that Social Security charges that retiree. In addition to Medicare Part A and Part B does not cover everything, so what we, the city, we have, it's called a medical supplemental. So whatever Part A and Part B doesn't pick up, because that becomes primary, your secondary becomes that supplemental medical. And that's what the city offers those retirees. The retiree certainly has the ability to go and shop around to see if there's a better rate out there for them. However, if they choose to, the city also offers that supplemental coverage for that retiree. So it's like a double net for the retiree. It's not, if they choose not to, they come in and say, you know what, I don't want it, they don't have to. But when they get to 65, we get that notice, and we're aware that that retiree is going to be 65. So we start contacting them ahead of time. Usually the retiree usually knows, and they start calling the city, and they're asking for guidance on it, and we start to give it to them at that time.
So it's 3 months prior for both the supplemental and Part A and Part B that they're being notified.
It kind of comes hand in hand when the retiree is about to be 65, and it's usually, they turn 3 months prior to them turning 65, Social Security will send them a notice.
Mhm.
And then they usually come, they're going to be shifted into the supplemental. Medicare becomes primary,
Okay.
and we offer them a supplemental to whatever Medicare doesn't cover for them.
So I'm saying like both Part A and Part B and the supplemental,
It usually happens
both
at
has
the
to
same
be.
time, yes, sir, it does.
Now, it has to be at 3 months prior or within the 3 months prior?
We like to plan ahead. I don't want them to be without any type of benefit.
Mhm.
So ahead of time, we start preparing them and start shifting them over.
Mhm.
You know, we update their addresses or contact information, and then we shift them over. We like to have it more, I don't want them to ever be without any coverage. So we start guiding them towards that change.
That's what I'm saying, just my issue is like, if they first, we don't wanna get the supplemental, but they're not 65 yet, it's a month before, can they change their mind and come back and say, you know what, I couldn't find anything better, you know what, I do want it.
Yes, of course.
That's what I'm saying, like, as long as, so it's not actually, has to be by 3 months, it's kind of within the 3 months.
We've never done it. We've never said, if you didn't come in 3 months prior to, we're not gonna put you in, we've never done
Okay.
it. We work with the retiree. 3 months is usually at the time that I tell them to look for that card in the mail. Some people don't read their mail. So I say, be on the lookout for it. It's an envelope and it's got the red and blue card in it. Come to us and we'll tell you what to do.
Okay.
So even if they turn 65, they can come and still enroll, or it has to be before?
We do a very, I'm gonna go on the limb, we're 99.9% sure we're gonna catch you. We have you on a list, and we have a list and that bumps them and bumps them and
there's
bumps them.
never
And
been
I
an
know your
instant.
date of birth.
Yeah.
So when your date of birth comes and I haven't heard from you 3 months prior to, we're gonna contact you. I can assure you that.
But it's also responsibility of.
No,
Yes,
no,
yes,
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
of
asking
course.
if there's ever been an instance where somebody.
I'm asking
goes beyond
because
the age of
We-
21.
I'm not 65 and I'm not retired yet,
We
but
will,
it's good to know.
we're gonna be there at some point,
Yeah.
but it is a complicated process, and we like to make it as seamless as possible for the retiree.
Okay.
We like for them to concentrate on other things, not the medical, but we do like to keep them in the loop, so we prepare them for this.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, because of the 3 months, like, if it's not within 3 months, you
No.
have to like,
No, sir, we will never do that to a retiree. We take care of our retirees, sir.
awesome, good to know.
So that last sentence, you said that,
No,
The last sentence is not new, it was moved from, it's
under
better,
29.5, you moved it.
yeah, we just moved it up.
And just for your benefit and information too, so should we have a firefighter that is still, we won't shift them into that Medicare. There was a point that Social Security wasn't withdrawn from the firefighter, so there's some that will never be Medicare eligible. So those, we keep them on our plan until they pass. We will not cut their benefits off at all. We have about 3 current retirees that fall into that category, and we're aware of them. So we're not gonna ever cut them off. They're gonna maintain that status.
okay, so that's where that,
That we're not Medicare eligible, so we have about 3. The rest of them have been transitioned over into the Medicare supplemental coverage.
and that's because they were paying social security. They weren't.
Prior to 88,
That's what I'm saying, but like,
Now, some of them
The,
have
the one, the
secondary
ones that are,
employment.
yeah, the ones that are Medicare eligible are the ones that were paying social security, even,
Right.
even if they weren't
They
being
might have
drawn.
had prior employment, they might have worked at another company, HEB or what have you, and I'm just naming it in a company.
Or
and they were
secondary employment.
deducted. Yeah, and that would help them as
So
well.
that helps. Just thought I'd drop that in there.
Orders, yes.
Well, I mean, like, yeah.
Yes.
So it
We've
kind
already
of,
had some of those guys, prior ADH that just retired, that's why I'm surprised it's only 3, but I guess we all have secondary employment that
Right,
covered
so
it.
that helped them. So that has helped them get to that Medicare eligible status.
You tell them to get secondary employment. they can get
Secondary employment.
Medicaid.
Well, not only that, but social security, to
Well-
qualify for social security, you have to have a secondary employment.
Your earlier firefighters in the late 70s, early 80s, they were not contributing towards social security. So those are the ones that were impacted by that, and those are the ones that the city recognized, and the city went in and were taking care of that group of.
oh, back part.
So then 29.6, the current contract says the employee agrees to pay $10 per pay period to the city to offset the city's cost of paying the health benefits contribution for retired firefighters. We have been looking at the fund, and I'll let Linda and Jesus talk about that a little bit more. But we were anticipating that, and right now with the $10, I think that we're collecting about $100,000 to offset about a little bit more than $1 million of premiums for retired firefighters. So we moved it up to $25. It would add another $150,000 to that pot. We do have, and I'll let them talk more in detail about this, but the premium rates, I think we're in year 3 of a 5-year plan, and the premium rates are set to go up between, is it 15%? For the,
It's 10%
But that
that
is for the
retires.
dependent fund.
okay.
This one is just for
So-
the retired.
Oh, this one's for the
firefighter.
retired. Okay, so the retired firefighters, that the premiums are anticipated and projected to go up. The cost is going up. The premium, or the fund to pay the premiums, is currently, I guess, working on a deficit. And it's projected to go into more of a deficit. So we're just trying to.
If I may,
Yeah.
explain this, so Article 29.6, so the city's been collecting $10 to offset the premium cost of a retired medical premiums. The city currently pays for our retirees $1.1 million to cover that cost. We are in the 3rd year of a 5-year plan. So the way that council approved it in 2019 was going to be 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, and 8% year 5. So our premium costs are going to continue to rise due to rising cost of medical and prescriptions. So this $10 offsets what the city pays in for the 1.1 million for those retirees to be in there. So of course, this amount, the $10 has been there for over 20 years. And it hasn't been addressed in a couple of years, and we're at a point that we need to address that. We need to think about looking at as helping to offset that cost of the retiree. It's not going to go down anytime soon. And we've got to find those offset costs somewhere. So we're asking to see if they would consider offsetting that cost to some degree.
Let me ask, so this is for the retired firefighter, not the dependent?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so is that fund singled out? It's just firefighter retirees?
Yes,
And-
so
and
the-
which one is it, like, how's it labeled? in
It's
the
called
budget?
the Annuity 771 Fund. That fund is specifically set to offset the cost of the firefighter retiree. And then I'll let Ms. Roxy go on to the next article.
Okay. So then moving on to the next article, 29.7, we've labeled this the Fire Retiree and Dependent Fund. Now, nothing, this doesn't change what's happening now, but we're cleaning up some language. There's some language that is no longer valid. It was to bring up some, to cover some premium balances that have since been covered and are now covered at 100%, starting in 2018. But let me just go through what the issues are with this particular article, or provision, excuse me. Effective the beginning of the first period of October, and we updated it to 2022, the association agrees to have the city deduct, and currently it's $59.86 per employee per pay period for the life of this agreement. And we wanted to make clear what that goes for, that it goes to this particular fund, what this fund is used for, and it's which dependents. I highlighted the 59.86 because we're leaving it an open issue because there needs to be a discussion about increases to the current premiums to maintain a healthy fund. This is where the premiums are subject to go, or set to go up, and the fund is currently working on a deficit, and we project a bigger deficit. And once I finish going through this article, I'll let Linda and Jesus talk more at length about that particular part. The next part says effective October 1, and we updated it to 2022, the firefighter retiree or his or her surviving dependent agree to pay the premium of, and currently it's $160.16. Again, this is another open issue that we need to have a discussion about to increase the current premium payment, or this payment to, because of the increases in the current premiums, and maintain a healthy fund to make sure that those premiums are covered. These payments, again, are intended to cover the cost of Medicare eligible Part A and B over age 65 coverage for the retiree and their eligible dependents, meaning their eligible surviving spouse and or eligible dependent children. The rest of this language is crossed out because, as you see, this was language that was to cover an outstanding premium balance that had been in effect on October 1. There was or during the last contract, and the premium balance was finally covered at 100% as of October 1, 2018, so that language isn't needed here anymore. We deleted that.
Aren't we eliminating health insurance before age 65 then? We only mentioned intended to cover the cost of Medicare. It says these payments are intended to cover the cost of, and it says Medicare. What about Blue Cross Blue Shield before age 65?
That is addressed in the section 29.3. 29.3 is talking about your active employee. This article is talking about.
No. I'm talking about
the
I retire at age 55,
Mhm.
between 55 and 65, in the Blue Cross Blue Shield retiree.
Then state that.
It doesn't state that. I understand the active employee in 29.3, or are we talking about retirees?
29.5 will keep you on the PPO, the regular plan, until you reach 65. So that article addresses that. That'll keep you.
That's
on
in the
there.
first sentence of 29.5. It says, when an employee retires from the Laredo Fire Department and begins receiving a pension under the LFRS, formerly known as,
Okay.
the city will pay the retiree's individual medical coverage until the retiree reaches at age 65. So that's 100% covered by the city, right? So the reason this doesn't say that is because this is only addressing the fire retiree dependent fund, where these monies that 5986 and the 16016 go into, and it's basically saying, okay, what is this fund being used to pay?
I mean,
And
I don't mind what you just said. I agree to it, but they don't pay 100% of their retiree.
they pay 100% of the bridge insurance for the retiree until they get to age 65,
The city just paid that 100%.
under 29.5.
Well, technically, the 29.6 is not 100%, even though we do put a small amount to be all fair.
That is
No,
correct.
that's correct, yes.
That is
You're
absolutely
helping
correct.
offset that cost.
Yes.
You're helping offset
Yes.
that cost.
Yes. I have a number.
Yeah, that's what I meant to tell me.
Retiring.
And then the
Yeah.
next, while these calculations envision a 2.5 increase in premium cost throughout the life of the agreement, the city shall have the option of increasing retiree dependent premium rates as the same rate as any increase to retired city employees. And we took out while these calculations envision a 2.5 increase in premium cost throughout the life of this agreement, because those projections
Yeah, no, it's.
don't apply to this
No,
current
They
contract.
were already met,
Yeah,
I think by 2019.
Yeah.
We met it. Now
The issue here, on the last, going back to the 2 paragraphs before that,
okay.
the city does not maintain current staffing levels, employee and retired contributions will not be increased for the sole purpose of covering the outstanding premium. Does that not need to stay in there?
This one right here, if the city does not maintain current staffing levels, employee and retiree contributions will not be increased for the sole purpose of covering the outstanding premium balance referenced above.
I think that's understood.
So it needs to be in there,
I
and I'll
agree
tell you
with-
why, ma'am, it came out,
When,
February of 2021. We were already down over 30 people, or employees, we were down over 30. And the current person at the time was the HR director, requested a meeting with the union and said, hey, you guys were over 2 million or $200,000 fund, now it's dropping. We got to consider coming to the table and adding to it. And we pointed specifically, we're down over 30 people. Right now we're down over 41. Yeah, well, back then we hadn't even started in the academy, so we were truly down a lot of people. That's why the fund balance is going down. It's not the premiums, problem is our staffing
funding.
level.
I think it's
Staffing.
a combination of both. I mean, if we all agree that costs are going up.
Oh, sure,
It's
sure.
a combination.
That we understand, but the fact of every time we get short-staffed, because.
The fund goes down.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
fund goes,
I
the fund
think
automatically,
we
it
spend a lot of
automatically,
time
it's gonna be
calculating
polarized because the retirees are gonna go up and the active members are gonna go down. So instead of being a neutral, you actually widen that. So for the longer time that we're short-staffed, that number is widening and widening. So besides the cost of insurance going up, the fact that our fund is going down because of the fact that we're being
We don't
short-staffed.
have the active firefighters contributing into it.
I think I want to leave that sentence something.
We want to
Yes.
leave it into that, I mean, if that's the reason it's going down, because we're down so many, like in February of 2021, the academy had not been hired. Our fund was going in the wrong direction at the time.
The longer we delay in addressing the issue, the bigger the deficit.
Oh,
will
sure.
Yeah.
So-
And
so
What you're
the-
saying is,
yeah.
as long as we don't,
yeah, and I think that's why it had a provision
Well-
of a timeframe, and prior to maybe October, November last year, we were getting on a regular quarterly basis those numbers. We have not received them since.
So
I have an
this
answer for you.
sentence, and this is why, when I looked at it, that it looked like it was outdated and not in here, because it says, if the city does not maintain current staffing levels, employee and retiree contributions will not be increased for the sole purpose of covering the outstanding premium balance referenced above. And the outstanding premium balance was already the deficit that had accumulated, that all of this kind of tiered
We
system
took care of
was.
that by 2019,
Okay.
started going in the right direction, but in 2021, they came to us and said, hey, guys, your fund is not there, but it's starting to go in the wrong direction. We pointed out, hey, we're 30-something guys short, that's why it's going in the wrong direction.
The contribution
And then
didn't stop.
now that we've hired those academies to cover those people, the fund is again going back in the right direction.
yeah, we do have, and like Mr. Chapa is saying, even though we're down, we have the academy, so we're technically have 430.
Yeah, we have people contributing.
Instead of the 407, so
Yes.
we're actually on the positive
On the
side.
positive
Yeah,
side.
no, and that's what I
It
said,
goes
but-
back to,
but
we're not specifically.
February of 2021, we were actually down 30 people.
But,
We weren't
but the
contributing.
contribution didn't go down, actually. You were at 23, when the past was 20, 19, 16. So the contribution didn't.
Level. No, I'm saying the amount.
The amount didn't drop. I'm looking at the numbers.
Yeah, but it didn't grow.
Well, the
It
city,
grew during that time.
in 20, the city
With
came
less-
to us and said it's going the wrong direction.
23, no, we're talking about contributions. We're not talking about the fund.
Oh, we're talking about the fund.
No,
Well,
no,
We're talking about,
fund-
I'm talking, because you talked about contributions.
No, no, but
Because we were less
Oh,
and
I'm
we
talking
didn't
about
want to hire.
contributions, well, the fund level, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The fund level, it was going in the wrong direction. We were short 31 personnel. We hadn't hired academies. HR director came, requested a meeting, and we sat down and we looked at the numbers and they explained to us the different cost of everybody and different people, the different costs of everybody. And we said, the reason the fund's going down is we don't have enough personnel that we used to have, we should have. Once those academies got hired, 3 months later, I think in the summer, that fund level has continued to go up and stay at a healthy level. At least the last time I saw it last year, maybe third quarter was the last time I received.
So what's gonna happen is this, our rates are going to go up. Okay, so every October 1, we're in the third year of a 5-year plan, we're going to go up by 10%. So if we do the calculations, we're not collecting enough for the, well, even currently, I project, and Jesus and I looked at the numbers yesterday. Based on our projections, the fund is going to be depleted by the end of, within 2 years, a year.
This 2021, as just estimate numbers, we're probably gonna be short about 70 tons.
Sure. We can give you the.
Well, I'm sorry, there's a balance that the fund has.
Sure.
When we look at just this year, we're gonna, the money coming in versus money going out is $70,000 short. So I think the balance right now in the fund itself is 128,000. So we'll still be positive on the balance. However, we need to start considering, because moving forward for the next 4 or 5 years, the rates are going up for the next 2 years or 3
We've got
years.
2 more years.
And that's
more
why I
years.
said, stop getting that paperwork, those numbers, and we have no clue. We could have the last couple of quarters,
I
and we
did
can
go
have
back.
them and see them.
I
And that
did
way
go-
we can justify to our membership, the guys, we can ask you to put a little more in.
I did go back, and I checked with Mr. Castillo and Naeli, who are the ones that are emailing it out. The email's going out because they're copying me as well. It's going out to Laredo President something. So it is being mailed out to Laredo Union
I know it was
President.
sent once to the PD guys, because they reached out. to
No,
me.
I have the emails, and I have, and I confirmed that with him, and he verified with Naeli. The email's going out to Laredo President.
I
don't know
used to
who
get
that
them,
is.
I used to get them,
Is there
and I
like a general
stopped.
email
And I can go in there and look at it.
It's LAREDOPRES8, and that's where it's going to. It's where it went to last month.
That's not PD,
That
that's
might-
not the PD president,
No,
because they sit there getting.
Was that David's email?
No,
David, Gonzalez?
No, his email was,
Let me see, because I might have it in my contacts, now that I think about it. If it's in-
but I used to get them also, and I stopped getting them.
Yeah, the only one I see there is the president one that's is getting it. Let me look to see my contact, maybe I have, I can tell you which one it is.
I sent an email to finance to ask them to make contact with you so that you can be receiving it the same way that we get, because we get the report on, I think the last one I got was on July 27th. And I.
I haven't gotten any contact.
We can go back, and I can go back and have, but we just need, I guess.
Because I know when David stepped down, he did send an email to the city and said, I will no longer be the union president. That was last summer?
I don't know if it went to somewhere else, but if Naeli didn't get it, or Mr. Castillo, then they're sending it to the
But then it
same-
stopped coming to me altogether. I mean, I didn't say don't send it. to me.
Yeah, when I came
I
on
was
board, I
getting them
asked
for
him,
years.
okay, when was the last time you guys, like, I haven't gotten it in
But you haven't told us.
touche.
And I know I did send them, one time, Chapa did mention to me, I did send them 1 or 2 months, and I just forwarded those to you, so, because I do remember seeing the Laredo, whatever the president emailed it in there, and I'm assuming it's, you had like a generic email for the union president.
So two things that I
Each one has
asked
added
on
their own.
the active employee contribution, we're gonna have to address it at some point. And we're hoping you can come back and give us what you would like for that to be, to offset that cost, because at some point we are gonna get your dependent fund balance is gonna get very low to an uncomfortable area. And also the 16016 is what you're covering, what you're paying for your retired dependents. So knowing that we're gonna be looking at it, at the increases in the next 2 years, addressing the future, is it something that you all want to address at this point? And I think we're at a point that we do need to look at it and consider it, and you want to tell us. I did ask, I wasn't on your last collective bargaining team, I did ask where did the 16016 come from?
Comes from the retirees.
No, right, but that amount, I asked where did that amount come from, and Jesus and I were talking, and he said it was just kind of like a number that was, that somebody worked some numbers and said this is
That
what.
was your actuary Bob or something. An older gentleman came in that one day, sat right there.
Was it-
They were throwing numbers at us, and we said, let me just have a sidebar with him.
Is it Randy McGraw?
Yes. So, we had a sidebar with him, and he worked out the numbers. And we worked out the numbers with him. And as far as like the 59, it's really up to our membership, how much they want. If they don't want to increase that, then it's only increased on the retiree side.
Yeah, because.
So I guess if you give us those numbers, those predictions, what it's costing right now per month, and then we would take a look at what we're contributing, what our retirees are contributing.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because
we
the
can-
last
and we can
contract,
figure out
it went
whether
up
we're gonna
$12.
split it, and that really is determined if we get a raise or not. Or active firefighters say, yeah, we'll put another extra $1, $5, whatever the case may be.
So that's why we kind of, we're wondering why you took out that city does not maintain staffing levels, employee and retiree contributions will be increased for the sole purpose of covering the outstanding premium balance.
That one was addressing that paragraph above.
Yeah, because the
That's-
sentence
It's all
before
together.
is the outstanding premium balance as of October 1, 2018, and that one's already been resolved.
But if we do go in a shortfall, wouldn't that be an outstanding premium balance?
In other words, if the city decides to save money, as we did during COVID, it was set out in city council out loud, we're short 61 employees, and that's how we're able to balance the budget by not hiring 61. What that day, when I heard that, I said, yeah, 31 of them were firefighters. So if you decide to balance the budget on the firefighters, then that decreasing by 31 starts heading our fund level in the wrong direction. And then you're gonna ask our retirees basically to pay more health insurance because you decided not to hire 31
No,
firefighters.
but those are already in the academy.
Yes, ma'am, but what
No,
we're
no,
saying.
no, but at the moment,
At the
in
moment.
February, when we didn't have an academy, ma'am, the city came to us and said, your fund is going in the wrong, your fund level is going in the wrong direction. We may have to consider doing contribution increases. And we kind of pointed out, well, the fund is going in the wrong direction. I understand cost is going up. But mid-year, you don't change cost of our premiums. You do it in August. City council approves it, takes effect October 1st. This was February, you guys noticed it's going in the wrong direction, and we just pointed out 31 guys are missing. That's the reason it's going down. It's not a premium change. It was
It's a
a
staffing
staffing,
change.
it's staffing level.
So that is addressed,
That's,
but
that's,
Let us
that's a
calculate,
concern.
let us calculate so that we can provide to you that that wasn't the significant change.
Look.
The 31 versus the premiums, and we'll tell you what the amount was and what it could have been if they were fully staffed, so that we can come back and agree or disagree what the impact was.
And-
Because
and-
I guess we can't talk without numbers, right?
and that's fine, ma'am. The only thing we're saying is that if you leave that clause in there as part of the sentence, as part of that article, I mean, there's no, doesn't hurt anyone. We're still coming to the table and talking about changing for the life of the premiums, right? What we don't want is, we have the contract for 4 or 5 years, and then year number 3,
It happens again.
it happens again, and this time there's nothing protecting our contract.
You know, rough,
Understand.
We hear
off
you.
of just rough numbers, we're looking at over $11,000 in 3 months for those 31 individuals that were gone. So, I mean, it is not a huge, but it's still a significant amount that were,
11,000.
No, it's probably more than that.
well,
Let's see.
31 people, 5986.
It's
For-
costing us, just to give you an idea, it's costing us like $57,000 a month,
Mhm.
and we're only collecting like 27,000. So we're about 27,000 short every single month,
Mhm.
and the numbers.
Average expense is 84,260. Not 54.
So, well, all we're saying is that you can leave that clause in there and just for the remainder of the contract, I guess, you know. Or, I mean, we understand we're gonna talk numbers and we gotta make an increase, we understand that part, but, you know, we just don't wanna get rid of that clause, you know.
Sure.
It's, you know,
Because, you know, right now you mentioned cost. Cost is 84, but I mean, a premium is set. Whatever that premium, the city and the city council decide to approve and what is
We're
covered.
self-insured, which is
Sure.
another
Right,
issue.
we're
Sure,
self-insured.
but city council doesn't raise our rates to
But
cover
the
100% of it.
expenses are, we're self-insured, so it's like, there is the premium up to a cap, and then after that, we take over.
There's a couple of factors. One is the rates are going up.
Sure.
For them, so that's a component. The other component is we have retirees coming into this fund as well. So right now, we're anticipating quite a bit retiring next
Point.
year. So eventually, some of them will reach 65 and will go into this fund. So the fund itself will be growing in participants and retirees in there as
Mhm.
more and more
That's a
firefighters
very good
retire.
point.
Yeah.
So those are the costs, and it's an estimate, we're trying to anticipate
Yeah.
what that expense is gonna be to anticipate the revenues that we need, and that's why it's important, and we've done it so far. We're not in that bad a shape, because we still have a fund balance in there of 185,000, which buys us time to discuss this and figure out.
Yeah, because
Um,
I'm not arguing not to increase our contribution,
Mhm.
just like you said, on the retiree side, it's gonna increase. So that person's gonna pay $160 and change. But if the city replaces them, then somebody will be replacing his $59 and change contribution,
Correct.
where
it should
it grows,
increase.
but it should grow also in money coming in because both
Well,
sides are
the thing
contributing,
is that
active and
if-
retiree.
One of the problems is that we have a fixed dollar amount coming in by both the active firefighter and the retiree, but yet the expenses are not fixed.
Yeah.
Those are going up. If we had a percentage amount in their increase, like we do, like the union dues that go up a certain percentage each year, well, then the revenues would try to keep up with the expenses as well. So we don't have that mechanism, so we're trying to set a fixed rate that's gonna take us for the next 4 or 5 years, in anticipating what those increases on the expenditure side is, additional retirees coming in, and because there's some coming in and a few going out as well, so that number there is where we're having a kind of
Do
estimate.
you have a number already in mind?
No, we don't have numbers in mind.
Okay.
We can anticipate, for example, we have about 100 participants that are in the dependent coverage. So let's say we get another 6 or 8 next year. So that's how we're trying to anticipate. So we'll be more than happy to kind of meet with you and try, and then you're the ones that are gonna have to decide as well. So we're gonna absorb
Who we
so
pass it
much.
on to.
Exactly.
Right, and typically we've had between 8 to 12 retirees per year. This year, we're anticipating close to 30. It's the numbers that I'm hearing. So when we don't make those assumptions, it really drives that cost up. So we're kind of taking a look at that as well. What really impacted our claims this year was our prescriptions, 1.3 million over than what we had anticipated, really something we can't control. And I'm not in a position to tell a parent if their child is sick or whatever, no, don't give that prescription, because, we don't want to do that. We do a very good job in providing that prescription cost for our employees and their dependents. We have one of the richest plans in the entire city. Very few other employers have what we have here for our employees. So we're trying to take care of it. We're trying to plan ahead, but we cannot control those unforeseens. We don't know what the medical plans, we're doing good. We're okay. We're where we anticipated. Prescription is killing us.
But when you say 1.3, you're talking citywide, right? Not just.
Right, I'm not
Retirees.
saying
Okay.
firefighters, no.
Okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
talking about it in general because we are a pool, we are self-funded. So everything that comes in, we have several sources that come in. It all goes into a pool, and then from that pool, we pay all our claims and prescriptions and administrative costs associated with that. So
So
we'll be-
if the city employees, besides us, if the city employees are short-staffed also, that's gonna affect our fund.
No.
Because I'm saying that she's referring to the whole.
Let me, I guess if I may clarify a part of it. We're talking about two things. We're talking about a premium that we just charged for the insurance.
Mhm.
The fund itself is only covering that premium.
Mhm.
So the premium is covered there. Then what Linda was addressing was you are part of a pool,
Mhm.
which is where all city employees are and all retirees are. So now the claims that you're paying
Mhm.
is what she was talking about, the claims that are paying, which is nothing to do with this fund. This fund is just collecting for the premiums.
Mhm.
The premium is $100, we're getting $100, that's what we're paying out of that.
Mhm.
What, do we know what the premium is for retirees?
252.44 is the, 252.44 for the retiree. That's over the age of 65. Under the age of 65, we are at the cost is 714. The fund subsidizes it, so, but the retiree pays 160.16. So that's where it gets a little.
621 is what I have on some of the numbers that Emma provided. That is the dependent coverage.
October 1, right, currently, right now, it's 621.64. Come October 1, we're going up to 714.89. The retirees will be paying 252.44 over the age of 65, and that is what that cost is. So let's look at a retiree, and we can give you some numbers, and we can go through it, and we can give you how many we have right now under the age of 65, over the age of 65, and what those costs are, and we can work on the number with you.
And that's 20 hours.
No, sir. It's going to 714 on what day? October 1st, you said?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and that's 621. So that's a 10% increase, right?
Yes, sir.
This is the fourth one, then October 23, we expect an 8%.
8%, yes.
10%.
There's 2%, right? One for the retiree, one for the dependents? Or-
The dependent's going up 15%. The employee retiree is gonna go 10%.
Is there another increase? You said there was an 8% increase. in
The
2020.
final year, the fifth year, we're gonna go 8% on the fifth year.
Okay, so the third is this October.
Yes, 19, 20, 20. This October is the third year.
30,
Yes, sir.
this, next month.
Yes.
Okay, so then we have two more, you said there, what, do you know what the numbers are?
10 and 8.
The number for what? I'm
We're
sorry.
talking about just a dependent?
Yeah,
Yeah, for the dependents, I think the 22, Linda mentioned 714.89, right? 22-23 fiscal year?
Yeah.
And then the 23-24, I believe it's 822.12?
Yeah.
And then the 24-25, 914, and I think that's the last year.
Yeah.
Then it restates at 900. Then the Medicare portion of those, we get those rates on an annual basis, so we're also getting some percentage increase in there.
We're going to go out for bids come January of 2023. We're going out for bids for the supplemental, Medicare supplemental. So we'll probably see some rate changes at that time.
so now you're using Aetna or Hartford?
Right now, we have Aetna. And we're you got for bids, so we're, like I said, we're looking for the best rates for our employee population. So trust me, You're welcome.
Yeah, are there any more questions on the
Or
No.
Article
No.
29? Okay. Okay, and the last thing I have before we caucus, is no change to Article 6, the rights of management. And so I just have I propose it as a tentative agreement. Did everybody get a copy of that?
No, you gave me this one. that's okay.
Yeah.
I like the,
If you don't have any questions on the tentative, there's no changes on that. We just asked for a caucus. I know that it's almost 5, so let me meet with my team and give you an idea of what we need to do. I know I need to print some things, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do, or how long the caucus is gonna be. I'm hoping to keep it 30 minutes. So, but I'll keep you advised. Okay? Thank you for your patience. We're gonna present some pretty big articles here that we have been working diligently on. Because of the time, and we start again tomorrow at 9, I know there's gonna be a lot of questions on these articles. So I wanted to, number one, be sure to present them at the table. That way you could have them and review them, look, make sure that you have, if you wanna look and see what questions, additional questions, and we can revisit these first thing in the morning, but I just wanted to make sure that you had them before we broke today. Okay, and there's
We can do, we want to, not speed through, it, but like do the reading.
yeah, we
And
can
then
do the
have-
reading
We'll start off tomorrow with the questions on
okay.
each individual issue. That way
Sure.
we're not, because if not, we'll be here.
No, I know, if on these articles, I know that we're gonna need to spend a lot of time on them. And we want to be able to answer your questions, explain where the city's position and have all that ready. And if there's anything you anticipate that you want to see for tomorrow, now's that, we can address that and hopefully be able to answer your questions. But I just want to put them on the table. We'll talk about them and then we'll start again at 9 AM tomorrow on these.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with lots of coffee. So does everybody have a copy? I'm going to start off with Article 15, the annual base pay, and this is going to be the City of Laredo's counter proposal.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, and here, one of the first, this is just the annual base pay. We don't have the table yet, because we're just the first things that I'd like to point out is that the annual base salary adjustments, we took out the fire cadets. One of the reasons is they're not part of the actual bargaining unit. And we would like to at least have, and they're at will, the city would like to be able to control at least that salary and that cost at that time. This is what we're proposing. And then we go into the proposed increases. So this would be for firefighters, fire assistant drivers, fire drivers, fire captains, fire district chiefs, deputy fire chiefs, fire marshal, and assistant fire chiefs. Effective upon ratification of this agreement and approval by city council, all firefighters in all ranks will receive one-time lump sum payment in the amount of $2,200 to be paid the first pay period after October 1, 2022. So the first year of this contract, we're proposing a one-time lump sum payment. And we are proposing a 5-year contract as well.
Okay.
On B, effective October 1, 2023, the annual base pay shall be increased by 1.5% for all ranks as illustrated in the table below. And when we're talking about all ranks, it's going to be limited to what is identified on 15.1. It intends just not the fire cadets, but the firefighters, fire assistant drivers, fire captains, fire district chiefs, deputy fire chiefs, the fire marshal, and the assistant fire chief. And if we need to clarify that, we can definitely clarify that with the language. On C, effective October 1, 2024, the annual base pay shall be increased by 1.5% for all ranks as illustrated in the table below, and we're working on that table. D, effective October 1, 2025, the annual base pay shall be increased by 1.75%, 1.75% for all ranks as illustrated in the table below. And on the last year of the contract, effective October 1, 2026, the annual base pay shall be increased by 2% for all ranks as illustrated in the table that we will provide. Again, this also goes hand in hand with the duration article. And with this particular proposal that we're placing on the table, we're looking at a duration of a 5-year contract. So we're going to, of course, leave that till the end as a kind of a cleanup article along with the definitions. But this is our proposal. This is what, when we've analyzed, this is what this is what the city can do, and we believe it adds in, it is even though we're making some payments every year or an increase in every year. The first year is a lump sum payment, and what we wanted to do was concentrate the additional pays to the last 4 years of the contract, or the increase in the pay to the last 4 years of the contract. Next article? Yeah. Do you want to, we'll move on to the next article then?
Yeah, but you want to do 16 now?
And we'll do Article 16.
Have it? I have an extra.
Yeah, I need a,
I don't know why I have two.
let me see, is that the right one?
I hope so.
You want to use one?
Yeah,
Because I have, how many do you need? Because I only have 4 left. I can make you an extra copy. Let me keep one and make sure we have the same copies. I gave somebody an extra copy, I think.
I think you gave me an extra copy.
Okay.
I have two.
Okay, and this is Article 16, Education Benefits and Certificate Pay and Assignment. What we're doing is creating two different tiers of firefighters. This article is not intended to take away anything that the current firefighters are already receiving. What we are doing is creating a tier for firefighters appointed before October 1, 2022, and then a second tier for firefighters appointed on or after October 1. So under D1, the firefighters appointed before October 1, 2022, everything remains the same. 6% of base salary per month for an intermediate certificate on the fire certificate, 8% of base salary for advanced fire certificate, 10% of the base salary per month for a master fire certificate. On D2, this is where we're adding the second tier for firefighters appointed on or after October 1 of 2022. A is $175 per month for an intermediate certification or fire certification, $225 per month for an advanced fire certification, and $300 per month on a master fire certification. On letter E remains the same. Letter F, on the district chief's education pay, we did the tiers again. For firefighters appointed before October 1, 2022, everything remains the same. That an additional 10%, that was just clarification language to make sure everything was the same, but it doesn't change anything substantively, just clarifies it. For firefighters appointed on or after October 1, 2022, it would be an additional $100 per month for an associate's degree and additional $150 per month for a bachelor's degree. And the one that didn't change was that the district chiefs receive an additional 8% of their pay for an associate's degree and an additional 10% of their pay for a bachelor's degree. And we probably need to clarify like 8% of what, whatever's currently happening now, so that there's no discrepancy there. On G, that remains the same. On 16.2, assignment pay as a certified or licensed paramedic. The assignment pay 16.2A is for firefighters appointed before October 1, 2022. And it says in addition to the base pay, it provides an additional pay of, and it remains the same, 10% of the base salary for a certified licensed paramedic assigned to ambulance rotation plus $25 per pay period. An additional $5 a shift of a 24 shift will be paid to each certified licensed paramedic who actually rides the ambulance. B, 10% of the base salary for certified licensed paramedic not assigned to an ambulance rotation. C, a certified licensed paramedic is defined by this article. Oh, this is just kind of the same on who is eligible for this pay and what they need to maintain in order to keep the pay. When we move on to B, for firefighters appointed on or after October 1, 2022, in addition to the base pay, provide an additional pay of $375 per month for a certified licensed paramedic assigned to an ambulance rotation plus $25 per pay period. An additional $5 a shift of 24-hour shifts will be paid to each certified licensed paramedic who actually rides the ambulance. B, $375 per month for a certified licensed paramedic not assigned to an ambulance rotation. And then C, D, E, and F are the same language as the first tier that talks about the requirements and how to maintain those certifications and who is eligible for that. 16.3, assignment pay as a state certified arson investigator or inspector. The employer shall pay an additional pay to state certified arson investigators or certified inspectors assigned by the fire chief to duty on the city's fire prevention unit as follows. For all firefighters appointed on or before October 1, 2022, it remains the same, an additional 8% of the base salary. The city and the chief reserve the right to determine the number of arson investigators and or inspectors, and that language doesn't change either. For B, for firefighters appointed on or after October 1, 2022, it would be $350 a month. And then the same language that the city reserves the right to determine the number of arson investigators and/or inspectors. 16.4, assignment pay as a state certified instructor. For firefighters appointed, for firefighters appointed before October 1, 2022, it remains the same. It would be 8% of the base salary. And again, the chief and the city reserve the right to determine the number of state certified instructors. And it lists out the requirements. B, this is the new tier, for firefighters appointed on or after October 1, 2022, $350 a month. And again, the city reserves the right to determine the number of state certified instructors. And I just noticed that the, under B, that should be A and B, not C and D. Okay, okay. It's just a. Article 16.5 remains the same. Assignment pay for state certified aircraft rescue firefighters, or the ARF, they get the additional pay of $190 per month. 16.6 remains the same. Hazmat unit firefighters receive an additional $190 per month. 16.7, that remains the same. A rescue team firefighter receives $190 per month. And then 16.8 remains the same, that in the event an employee is eligible to receive education benefits, certificate pay, and assignment pay, then the employer shall only pay for only 2 of the following. And it has that. For the percentages, that 2 highest would equal to 20% of the base pay. And so we have that one. And then Article 30 is the retirement. I hope this is the right one because I was having trouble with the printing. There we go. I believe it is.
Should be.
Okay, here, what the city is proposing is 30.1 remains the same, where the employer deducts the employee contribution on a biweekly basis. 30.2 is what has changed. The city will maintain the 21.10% of the firefighters' pay towards the LFRS. That's the contribution that it's currently at.
Mhm.
B, if the firefighters approve the ballot. And just to clarify on the record, the ballot that we're talking about is the ballot that we've discussed here at the table that's currently pending for the LFRS. And if that ballot is approved to increase the pension contribution by at least 1%, then the city will contribute the following. Effective beginning the first payday of October 2022, the city shall contribute an additional 0.25, excuse me, 0.25 of the firefighters' pay towards LFRS, increasing the contribution to 21.35%. Effective the first payday of October 2023, it would be an additional 0.25, increasing the contribution to 21.60. Effective the beginning of the first payday on October 2024, would be an additional 0.25, bringing it up to 21.85. And effective beginning the first payday of October 2025, the city will contribute an additional 0.25 of the firefighters paid towards LFRS for a total contribution at that point of 22.10%, excuse me. And that would be an increase of 1% across the board. Now, this is also the only note, I printed the wrong one, but this retirement article is kind of a package deal. We are proposing 30.2 in conjunction with 30.4. 30.3 remains the same, but 30.4, for the additional contributions, we're asking for the following on the Board of Trustees. The 2 citizen members of the LFRS Board of Trustees shall not be retired firefighters who receive benefits from the Laredo Firefighters Retirement System. A dependent of a retired firefighter who receives benefits from the LRFS, or related to a retired firefighter who receives retirement benefits from the LFRS. And this is important because the makeup of the board is, as you know, dictated by statute. And it asks for citizens or residents who would be able to provide an objective viewpoint in terms of what the board needs to do. The board of trustees is in charge of setting the benefits, making changes, doing the ballots, such as you did. They have a lot of power with regard to what the plan does. And so we're asking for that objectivity to be included in the Board of Trustees. And those are the three big articles that we are proposing today. And we will take any questions or any information that you're requesting right now and work to try and get that to you for the morning. And we can, when we open up tomorrow at 9 a.m., we can start a discussion of each of these.
Okay. 15.1, you're proposing the cadets are gonna stay at the same pay rate for the duration
Until they get appointed as a firefighter, yes. And then once they're appointed a firefighter, then they have the benefit of the increases.
How did y'all come up with a number of $2,200?
That is the equivalent to approximately 2%
2% of what?
base pay.
But who's base pay?
It's an average of getting, so for example, yeah, it's not, I'm taking total wages, not necessarily just one, right.
So instead of giving it 2% across the board, based on an
It's a
average?
fixed amount. It's a fixed amount.
You say you use the average of what a 2% would be on a chief,
For example, a
on a
1%.
captain, on a firefighter, a driver.
I'm not looking at the different ranks, so for example, on average, 1% is about $550,000. So if you divide that into the amount, that's what we have in there, kind of, it's more, definitely more than the 2% would be $1.1 million more or less. So it's actually like a little bit of higher than 2%. Get you the exact percentage, and normally we did more than what we've done in the past for regular employees. We did $1,100. This year we did $850. So it's almost double that now. And part of the idea there is that we're trying to maintain the base rate so we can have a little bit more control of the compounding as it moves forward. So that's part of the idea and plan on doing that, so we can kind of let us catch up to other cities or other base pays that we have.
Catch up or slow down?
Well, slow it down so we can catch up, because right now our wages, every year we have to budget, we're always using a higher amount. So by that, it slows it down, you're correct. It slows down the amount of that increase for
city
the
to
following
catch
years.
up.
Yes. So, yes, whether the city's what we're trying to catch up.
Is that why you're trying to get rid of the fire cadets as part of our collective bargaining?
That, I think that's like Roxy mentioned, I think the idea is there that in the past, we've had academies and they're still not firefighters, and when we come October 1st, we're doing a contract increase to them as well. So that's something we are trying to achieve as well. So once they graduate as cadets, and they'll go to that entry-level firefighter rank.
The only thing, and we know that they're not covered under the rest of the articles, but by removing here, you, in reality, freeze that rate for an eternity.
We wouldn't necessarily freeze it. The idea is that management has control of that. So if we're having trouble enticing applicants, then that
Increase them.
right.
hard.
But as you know that the rate for an entry cadet right now, there could potentially be some savings there that we could have.
Well, yeah, but you don't see the negative effect that it can have. Has the city done a study at all with the other cities of why they're having trouble hiring? Why they're having trouble retaining their firemen and their medics?
We don't have that problem.
Exactly.
If you don't
That's
have
right.
that
We're over, I mean,
And-
we get lines and lines where we have to get
and-
the arena to test.
No, but
That's what I'm saying,
when you
like,
make a divide, right, and you start making distinctions between people who are hired, after 2022, that you're gonna have that problem. I mean, I'm sure other cities who've implemented this have that problem, where they have trouble hiring people. They have trouble enticing people to join the fire department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not that we're intending to freeze it, because the city will have the discretion that if we're seeing that we're not getting the applicants, then at that point, we would have to increase that entry level so that we could attract more applicants.
But you're doing it in Article 15, Article 16. and-
In the ad pays, it's a different situation, because the ad pays, what we're trying to get control is the amount of ad pays that we're paying. So since it's a percentage, we're also trying to get some control of that, because we're putting in a lot of money into the ad pays by the contract. So the only way we can have some control there is without impacting any of the current firefighters is by doing that. And as you know, last year, or the last time we negotiated, that was an attempt that was brought forward. I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding as to back then that we were trying to take away from the active firefighters, and that was
After 2022. So you're taking it away, basically. You're doing away with 10% from here on out. So you don't see that would have a negative effect on our guys?
Well, the word appointment, now you're talking even about the current cadets, right? You say appointment, they haven't been appointed to,
And if they don't graduate by October 1st,
right? So you're already
taking away from
the
active
current employees,
members.
and then master firefighter, advanced firefighter, intermediate, you're targeting already guys that are less than 6 years. So it takes 6 years to get the first one, takes 12 years to get the third one.
so what the first ad pay you get as soon as you get your EMT. Your
No,
primary
yeah, but I'm
certification.
talking about,
That's the first 10% that comes into play when you get to the line. You're already supposed to have that EMT.
Sure.
So we have 10% right off the bat.
Mhm.
And then they take some 6 years to get to the intermediate, which is a 6%, and then throughout the career you move up. And those are the two bigger ones, which are the two 10% eventually that you get there, so.
To go,
well, I mean, most of our guys don't get there, even though they're here 12 years, it takes other educational components to get it. But basically, we're already targeting guys that are working as saying,
they're
you're
not gonna be able
already
to get.
dividing us, like, even all the guys that are here, you've been here 3 years, that's it, you're out.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, if you have a better suggestion, we're trying to get control of the incentive pays, because we've done the percentage incentive pays for so many years, that when you compare an incentive pay to another entity, we're way out.
So the issue is not that it's out of control. The issue is that other employees don't have it.
No, it's
And,
not a control.
and I mean, I guess you can,
Because if it's that it's not within control. Out
what I'm
of,
saying is
out of the last,
the difference between.
out of the last
what we're
12 years,
paying-
okay, out of the last 12 years, how many times has the city not been able to meet their budget?
Without sacrificing what? Because we've sacrificed a lot in other areas to be able to meet this.
To trigger,
When,
because
when we've
what's the
had,
trigger?
we've had crises and we've come to the table with a union in the past, and we've said, this is happening, can you pause it for a little bit, because I know we have a collective bargaining agreement with you. Can you help us out? And the answer has always been no. And so we've had to do without a lot of other things
Mhm.
to make sure that we comply. And we understand it's a contractual obligation. We completely understand. And so we're asking you now for your help. During this time. during this time.
Again, so for a 5-year stretch, you're saying? Because at the, from my understanding is, at the end of the 5 years, that's gonna become written in and
It's a
gonna
brand
stay
new,
there.
it's a brand new collective bargaining negotiation, like
Yeah.
every time that there is, yes.
Okay,
I
so,
mean, I can't predict what's gonna happen after 5 years, neither can you.
well, the thing is, right now, the city is more financially stable than it was 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, it was able to maintain throughout.
We have many more expenses too.
Okay,
But it's like Mr. Abel saying, it comes, there are sacrifices that are done during the budget process, because the first thing we have to take care of is all the contractual obligations.
Mhm.
Whatever's left over is what we're doing, for example, to buy capital outlay, to buy.
but
other
except you
things.
already approved the budget, so you're not sacrificing anything right now.
Well,
The
talking about
budget,
future budget moving into the future.
well, yeah, you're asking us to give up something for 4 or 5 years, stating off of one instance.
Not at one instance.
Again, name one time that the city has not been able to balance their budget because of these.
I can name you many times, including this fiscal year, where we've had to decrease our fund balance because we have other obligations.
So you've been able to balance the budget.
We've sacrificed, and we are sacrificing currently, and we're using revenues such as bridge revenues instead of working on our infrastructure to be able to do this.
Except
As one example, as
except-
one of many
Except
examples.
the infrastructure was
We
a
have-
4-year-old.
We have to work,
We have
we have
stopped.
to work, by law, we have to balance the budget.
By law.
And we have to work within the monies that we're getting, so we're, like I mentioned, we get X amount of monies in.
Mhm.
We have to comply with all the contractual obligations that we have, or either police and fire or any other contractual obligations. And then how much do we have left over?
Mhm.
So then we address all the needs of the city departments. You know, we're talking about vehicles, we're talking about increasing contracts that we have out there for X, Y, and Z.
Except again,
Right.
you've
So there are
already balanced the budget.
sacrifices. Yes.
Because we have to, so if an employee, a
By law,
regular
we have to.
employee comes in, as an example, we've been visiting the departments, because I want the departments to know who the city manager's office is, right? And so we've been visiting departments such as Public Works, Solid Waste, Parks. They have not received increases in the past. And when you see in their faces, because they have not, and they tell you, ma'am, how can I survive on $600 a month, a pay period, I'm sorry, to feed my family? I can't tell them, because we've sacrificed those individuals and those salaries to give where we contractually have to. And that's very sad, because they say, do I feed my family or do I pay my rent?
Discuss it tomorrow.
And since we have 2 board members here from the pension, my question is, the fire cadets pay into a pension fund, is that being counted into it?
Yes.
They're paying,
Yes,
is that,
they are
does
paying.
that,
The
does that
answer
get
is yes.
factored?
The answer is yes.
So, again, our pension's gonna take a hit.
But we're not stopping the deduction,
No, you're not stopping the deduction, it's just not increasing it.
correct?
So you see where that's gonna trigger a counter effect, a domino effect for when they retire. Because if their pay doesn't go up, they're paying at a lesser
Yeah,
rate.
But they're,
I know, wait, hold on. They're paying at a lesser rate now. They're gonna graduate, put everything in, but because they're 40, 60, 30, whatever's hired from here until the department goes under.
For 18 months at a time.
Yeah, for 18 months.
2 years, no? It's 24 months.
Well, they've cut it to 18.
So,
We're eventually gonna have to increase it again, because we're not getting some of the certifications we need.
Come on.
you-
Like-
everything,
some of our
I guess to
certi-
answer,
Some of our certifications that we need,
everything you're
one that
going
takes
after,
6 weeks or whatever, and those were deleted.
But
Just
they were,
to-
they were already firefighters at the time, so that wouldn't affect you. It's for those 18 months, I'm saying that they're cadets and then they graduate after the 18 months and they become firefighters.
the thing is that, and we understand what you're proposing, but everything here is gonna tie into our pension fund going under. It's gonna go upside down, because everything that changes,
I would disagree with that.
Yeah, because right now,
And you have two pension board members here
That's
that
what I'm-
work diligently and very hard to make sure that it is funded. That's why we're bringing forward that ballot
Mhm.
that I'm gonna speak for the firefighters, but we know that we have to make a change. So that's why we have a current ballot.
Mhm.
And so we're not gonna allow it to go on. So I just wanna clarify that. Once we get the vote on this one, we're gonna be in a much better situation than we were 2 years ago, 4
Yes.
years ago, 10 years ago, that I remember being part of this. So
yes.
now, when you mentioned I didn't understand the question. Are you saying that the firefighter will get less of a paycheck when he retires? Is
No,
one?
no, no.
Or are you talking about
They're-
less money going in?
Less money's gonna be going in over the years,
Mhm.
where it's gonna cause what we're giving up, because we need to make changes.
Mhm.
You know, we're trying our best to educate our members, because yes, hey, this needs to happen. We can't stay at the current rate, because it's not self-sustainable.
Correct.
What we're attempting to change, this is gonna continue to underfund worse and worse. and
Because you're
worse.
not increasing the cadet pay, hence you're not increasing their contribution.
Not only that, when they
It's like Mr.
graduate,
Vela said, normally it's gonna be those 18 months that are not
But
gonna
that,
go in.
can we
But
afford
for,
18
well, for the
months?
remaining 20 years or 25 years of their career,
18, but it's 18 months, not only at one academy, you're talking about multiple academies for 5 years?
yeah, but I can take the opposite approach.
Mhm.
I can say that also that money that they're putting in is bringing them to a higher average salary at the end. And also causing more money pulling out of the retirement. So it could be a double-edged sword both ways, depending on how you look at it. Because the more you make, the more higher wages, the more higher salary, the higher the drop on the pension plan. And that's why we're addressing some of the benefits with the formula and so it could be a double-edged sword. I mean, if we could be slowing it down, yeah, they'll get yes. Is that a good thing for the retirement? Yes, probably. So,
but
The
it's-
cadet pay will never factor into their retirement, because we have to work 20 years before we can retire. Our final average right now is based 3 out of 4. It might go to 5 years, based on what the guys vote on.
Mhm.
So that will never take effect. I think what the gentleman here at the table we're trying to say is, since we take so long to hire someone and replace them, and then they're at a much lower salary that doesn't increase at all, it's harder to say, might take 3 cadets for that one retiree that stepped off as far as contribution is concerned. It might take 2, it might take, just depending on the math of who left, and basing it on a $50,000 salary instead of a $70,000 salary, just that percentage. There's less money going in for those 18 months, plus I guess that's
and I think
that's one of the
we
things.
learned from those past experiences, and what we're doing, for example, right now is there's gonna be more firefighters coming down the pipeline. There's one station coming up, there might be another station coming up, that's gonna require more personnel, more money coming in. So there's a lot of moving parts to the pension, and it's touched by AdPay, it's touched by the cadet, there's a lot of moving parts, and we have an actuarial that kind of looks at that and makes those recommendations. So what we're trying to address right now is.
But isn't,
And plan for the future, because we
Yes.
have
Well,
a
that-
couple of
that's-
stations that can come up, the
That-
Unitech
Mhm.
and in the south. So we have these, when we do, not
Mhm.
if, when we do, we need to be prepared financially to meet all the obligations.
Mhm.
And there's only so much money that is generated by property taxes
Mhm.
and all our other sources.
Sources.
Right, so we know we'll have to add additional personnel. So how do we do that? Every firefighter, what do we calculate? And I asked you to, for every firefighter that we add, I know that I
I can't
kind
remember
of,
the question.
for every firefighter that we add is how much that we would have to add to the budget.
80,000?
No, it's more than 80,000. Oh, no, it was over that. It was, I think, or maybe I
A
calculated.
firefighter by itself is about 100 and.
Are we talking cadet or are we talking actual firefighter?
Firefighters.
A firefighter, once we have a
Yeah,
firefighter.
because you open a station and you have to have the crew, the captain and the.
Oh.
All
driver
that,
and all
right,
that.
and so we're.
We're talking maintenance of the station and
Like $9 million, right, for a station, just for an additional station, nine to.
The engine, the ambulances.
And that's not counting
So we're have to prepare for all
equipment
that.
and any other stuff. And one of the things that we're trying to do is see whatever we can save somewhere else, it's gonna go right back to the department in some form. So and the thing is that when we look at the amount, so for example, if you look at an act pay for the 10%, a firefighter starts getting, if you're at 10%, $7,000. But if you're a captain, it's $10,000. If you're an assistant chief, it's $15,000 for that act pay.
Mhm.
So when you look at a fixed amount, obviously there's some savings in there that we can utilize and use it for the department. It's not that we're gonna use it somewhere
the
else.
thing is, isn't it beneficial to the pension to leave those ad pays in?
Well, the thing is that.
Because you're gonna be taking in more money than you're putting out anyways. Because with the
but like I mentioned,
with the
it's a-
proposed changes, it no longer adds the ad pay. The proposed changes are going what off of base pay? If I'm not mistaken.
And if you remember at one point,
Exactly.
at one point, the pension's gonna have to look at that, because at one point, we removed the lump sum payments. Contribution.
Mhm.
And when they came back and said, you know what, don't count the lump sum payments as a contribution for it because it's costing more money. So, there's a lot of moving parts for the pension. What do we wanna address first they're all tough, they're all difficult choices. We tried to bring it up last time, we're bringing it up again. It is a concern that we have, the city has, and it's not a Jesus thing, it's a city concern that we have with the act. How do we address it? How do we take control of it?
So how to decrease it?
Oh,
So in reality, it's taking away.
No. This is a new negotiation, it's not taking away, remember, everything is on the table.
Yes, what we currently have. It's not, we're starting from zero and let's go
But it's
from
not a
there.
one-way street. We're telling you, we have serious concerns financially for the city in the future. And so how can we level it off and work with what we have? Like I'm telling you, we're gonna have 2 new stations coming up.
Mhm.
How do we figure it out? If our costs keep going up? Plus, prices go up.
Mhm.
In even the simplest thing of paving or concrete went up, 3 times more. Everything is going up. So how do we balance the city as a whole? Is a question. We're looking for ways. We would not be doing due diligence if we would not put it on the table.
There's, like I say, it might be seen as a cost-effective measure and the number wise, and I understand where you're coming from, but this has union president, the rest of the individuals here at the table can attest to it.
I could
If
sit
we-
the other
if-
way.
If we go down this avenue, especially when it's the ad pays, this department, this city as a whole, with the services it provides, it's gonna start to suffer.
I can see it the other way too. It's gonna have repercussions if we continue the way we are. Overall also.
Okay. How much is left for the fire department after you pass the budget? What's left?
That would be our negotiation tool for us to not be able to disclose. I mean, we're working on it. We're gonna have to do with balancing retirees. It's all going to depend. The bottom line is going to depend on how many people end up retiring too.
One thing to note, for example, this year, or in order to meet our contractual obligations, like I mentioned earlier, we know that we're anticipating anywhere from 30 firefighters and plus or minus, at an approximate cost of $5 million. We've already budgeted that money for those retirees because we're gonna need it.
Mhm.
We
That's
also
something
did
that
it,
we didn't.
I mean, we didn't,
May I ask, I mean, we hear that what our pay. So that benefit package money is not, but since we don't use our sick leave or we don't use our annual leave, we get to sell it when we retire, that benefit package you're talking about.
It's not an accrual. It's not accrued.
The money's not accrued and that's why it has to come out. But then when you sit at the table, it says, well, your salary is not 70, it's all this other, but it's not accrued. So,
Okay.
I mean, it
So,
shows it on the
okay.
budget that it's there.
So the current employees, active employees are there. The minute you retire and I have to pay you whatever it is that you have, that was not budgeted. This year, for the first time historically, we budgeted for those 35 retirees that we were told were going to happen. What if it's 40? What if it's 50? If it's 20? Great. We don't know the number. We were told conservatively 30 to 35. And I mean, I'm sure you know.
I have no idea either. It's all on education that they actually, this ballot it affects you, but it doesn't affect you sometimes immediately for some of our guys. It's all based on age.
So, and the reason that the lump sum payment becomes there's not an actual additional payout that happens when you take a sick day or a vacation day. It just means that you're going to continue to get paid your salary and your benefits, and you can take the day off. So there's not an actual payment of it. But when at the end, when those days have not been used and now they need to be paid out, that's an additional monies that actually has to be paid out that was not part of what the leave was first being used for. So that's why that's that additional lump sum and why it's much different when you have to pay it out rather than when you use it.
It's just that whenever any employee, whether it's fire or just regular city employee, when we talk about crunching numbers, we always say, well, it's not the salary that they're taking home, it's the benefit package you have to include, and you have to balloon it by $20,000, $30,000. And they tell us we have to consider that in our budget. In fact, it's not till they retire. And like us, in fact, our benefit package gets shrink because we don't get to roll over annual leave like every other civil employee, including PD that has a contract. We don't get to roll our annual leave. They do, so our benefit payout is smaller compared to all the other city employees.
I think the difference in there, what makes the lump sums higher than other employees is the unlimited for the sick leave. So even though you don't have, you have the 480 exposure on the annual leave, the sick leave is the one that to $4,000.
And the rate to pay.
And so they're retiring at a higher rate of pay. And, there are payouts on just the gross payouts are $150,000, $140,000, $130,000. It's getting better. I can tell you, it was worse before. And I think part of that had to do with the.
It's coming to an end.
Well, and part of that had to do with maxing out the 1440. So, I mean, back then that could have been seen as a takeaway because people were unlimited, firefighters were unlimited. We reduced it to 1440, but because we had that issue and we came to the table and we negotiated and we found a common ground and it's in both our interests, moving forward, so that was one example, but the lump sums are because of the sick leave, it's unlimited. It's coming to the end, as you're saying, but I know we were touching on one of those articles again and bringing it back to unlimited. And I'm saying, let's be very careful to consider that because it's gonna throw us back to where we were at 10 years ago. And then we're gonna have to start, Unfortunately, some stuff are takeaways, like you're saying, and yeah, I mean, the thing is that we're not taking away from anybody that is currently has that benefit right now, that ad pay. So we're trying not to affect people that are already here. So yes, it's gonna take us another 10 to 15 years to kind of, phase that out, but, it's a give and take. That's what we're trying to do. We're being conscious about that because that was part of what came up last time. We were taking away that from the firefighters. So it's a proposal and I mean, it's gonna be a difficult article.
I just don't see it passing because it affects so many people.
Yep.
Which one, we're talking about the ad or the,
Yeah, the ad pays.
or the,
I'm talking about the ad pays.
the ad pays, yeah.
It limits so many people
So let me ask
Moving
you.
for
forward.
the department, yeah.
I'm not
I mean,
saying-
no, I mean, the guys that are.
Okay,
that are
so I'm
in the
not,
department.
I heard two things. You're worried about the cadets and then you're worried about the ad pays. If leaving the cadets in, but working on the ad pays, is that something that you would consider? Or,
No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about the ad pay, just passing that article for the membership that.
After the effective date.
Yeah,
Article from the
well,
board.
because you're talking about appointments, so you're saying whenever you're appointed to this, now
Then you
you're getting a,
Fix them.
No, it's appointed a firefighter, not appointed when you get the certification or whatever makes you
Okay.
eligible for the ad pay. Is that the confusion?
yeah, because it
No,
says
what-
appointed.
When you're appointed a
And I
firefighter,
mean-
yeah, when you're appointed a firefighter rank.
The new appointments will be coming in.
Anybody currently
Here
getting
today.
ad pays.
Okay, I mean, because if you read it, it says appointed master firefighter, or master firefighter certification.
No,
Okay,
no,
for
no.
the-
If you read it says appointed
Yeah, sure.
firefighter. And then when you were saying appointed firefighter, if you look at the definition of
So
firefighter.
then it's only
there's a-
affecting the 2 cadet classes,
no,
Yes.
yes,
Correct.
because there won't be firefighters till next year.
Right.
Right.
doesn't affect anyone.
Does that make sense?
And that was
Yeah.
our idea, not to impact anybody
Yeah.
that's here today.
It makes sense, but I don't think it'll pass it. This is,
And my question to you was, okay, so if we put the cadets back in, but it's for the current cadets, but future cadets, would that be something that you would even consider? So think about it. Don't answer us no.
No, we'll counter it.
and then on Article 30, how could we, in this contract, enforce something on another board? I don't know,
I
how's
guess
that?
by
enforced?
speaking to their board, we don't expect
Yeah,
an
but you
answer right
can't,
now.
we don't have who are the board of trustees and on that board, we don't control.
So then how can you ask for percentages for them too?
No, you're asking for 2 citizen members, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
How
don't
are we gonna-
dictate who's on the board, of the trustees of the.
It's a very unbalanced
But
board.
it's, the board is,
We
the
only vote
positions
for-
of the board are dictated by the statute, the firefighter act, the retirement, what's it called? And then the citizen appointments are voted on by a majority of the board. And a majority of the board consists of firefighters. board that can provide an objective view on the plan and
I understand that. How many members do we vote for?
Two.
Two?
Three,
Firefighters?
no.
No, firefighters,
It's three
No, no, no,
firefighters.
hold
It's
on.
three
Three.
firefighters.
Three active.
three
It's three
active.
active.
Yeah.
Three
It's
active.
So
three
those
active.
are the only
appointed.
ones that, those are the only two, the only three positions that our members are the ones to elect. The
But
other
you
ones
speak to the
are,
board, because the board spoke to you all about increasing it by 1%.
But what is,
No,
okay, I think he's just pointing a
the
point
board
that there's
asked
three.
for More than
active
1%.
no, 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 no.
The board asked for more than
No, no,
1%.
we dictate only three members,
Correct,
right? That's always, that's what we're saying.
but you can ask
but the
them.
citizens are voted on by a majority of the board.
So the board is the ones that dictate, that's a different entity than from us. We're not the union and pension board. We're just the
So
union board.
let's take the pension out.
The city cannot force you for your compensation of that, or the board for that, but the city also is contributing the money and putting a,
So you want us to dictate what happens on
No,
another
we
board?
want you to ask them. We want you to ask them.
Here, you would not be asking for us to ask them. Here, you would be kind of,
So
you'd be
the,
contractually obligated
so
to
who's,
tell them to
who's on the board? You have
ask
three active
Three
firefighters,
active firefighters?
Two city,
a mayor,
Two.
the mayor,
No,
or
two
two
Mayor's-
city?
Mayor's designee.
it's two city,
And the,
finance
City.
director or designee.
yes.
Right, so there's citizens that get voted on, right?
Who happen to be retirees.
So if the board, if the members of the board are part of the firefighters in the city, and then you're voting on the citizens and the firefighters already have a majority, I mean, if there's an agreement that the citizens will remain objective and not be receiving benefits or related to anybody receiving benefits because they have a direct vote on the plan and the benefits and everything, that's not something, you're saying that's not something that could be done?
Well, it depends because also, again, it is a complete separate entity. The thing about
Is
it
it
is
ethical to do that, though?
to what, to dictate to them? I
No,
don't think so.
no, the makeup of the board the way it is now.
Follow those rules.
Is it ethical?
Follow
It's
those
not on
rules.
us.
That's not
No,
our
I know
decision.
it's not, but what do you think? Is it ethical?
You can't expect us to form an opinion on an entity that doesn't.
Well, you have 3 board members that could say it's
Yes, but-
unethical.
But it's on them. We only have one of the board members.
We
He's
have-
right here.
Yeah.
The other ones, they're comprised of other firefighters that are not part of the union board.
The reason, I have history on it,
Mhm.
right? And so the reason that we're trying to get out of the unfunded liability is because a lot of decisions were made by the majority who were either retiring firefighters
Mhm.
or firefighters. Because there was plans, there was things in the plan that didn't make sense.
Mhm.
And the city was saying no, and always got outvoted, even if it was the right, educated thing to do. That was before your time.
Sure, sure.
It was
And that's what I'm saying.
We've taken lots of steps. In 2017, we
Yes.
put the three-legged stool where, the actuary has to come to the table. And we basically, the intent was put some liability on the actuary if they're gonna approve what the board is saying. Because, yes, the actuary should be objective, but at the end of the day, they're hired. So when they're hired, you want to keep that position. So I understood what you're saying, and that's why what was in the state statutes, three-legged stool, we put it into our booklet, But I mean, there's some things in this article that, or in Article 29, that kind of go against what our booklet says as well. But we follow what it says here, and that's why I was asking, how are we going to dictate this to something that is followed on state statute, and dictate to a board? I understand your argument about, well, you come and ask you. So that board is basically, because it's in the contract comes to the union and makes a recommendation to ask for whatever it asks for.
We were asked for 1% and we're providing the 1%. We weren't asked for 2.
It was 2.67.
Oh, we weren't?
The
That's what they had in
2.67
their
was
request.
the,
Oh, the request, I'm sorry. I thought it was
It's
1.
2.67.
The 1% was on a
We
attempt
were gonna, well, we
to try
were-
and put in
And
1%.
that's an independent amendment. We have
Yes.
Plan 1, Plan 2, which eliminates overtime, which was, I guess, the last of the big recommendations from the actuary to remove. One was cherry picking. One recommendation that they've always made that we can't control is proper staffing. So we can't control that, but we could control the cherry picking, we can control the overtime, and taking basically 2 steps. The first one's 2017, and the next one is now. And it's recommendation of the board, and it asks the union, to basically ask for money that it might need, but again, it's not the pension board. Unfortunately, it's not the way the city of Laredo has it set up, that the pension board negotiates directly with the city. Unfortunately, it's in our contract, and it's already before all of our time that we're sitting here at the table. It's always been part of it.
And also the thing is, you're stating a past experience from 10 years ago. If within the last, what was it, 2017?
last 5 years.
Last 5 years, last 6 years, the board has moved it in a proper direction to where it corrects it. And
Because
basically,
of your current board members that are, the firefighters are listening.
so ethical or not,
But-
are they doing the right thing?
Today,
Well, we understand, but
Yeah, but
you're asking us to form an opinion on something that happened years back before any of us come to this table.
what happened maybe in your last board selection with your board? I mean, there was recommendation that was gonna be had, everyone was surprised, and again, another firefighter retiree.
And this is not a new item, I guess, that we have discussed in our board meetings. And I think it comes back to what Roxy is saying, the representation of the board itself. It might not be it might not be illegal to do it the way we have it, but there's no actual true citizen representation. And that's one of the things that I have been very vocal about it since I was put as a board member in there, and I talked to several. At least one retired firefighter, one citizen at large. I thought that we almost had it this last time. But like Mr. mentioned, we were off for it.
And I understand that, sir, but like, this goes back to what I was saying, you can't expect us to.
Okay, we were willing to work on the language, but why aren't you willing to try and ask?
For us to try and ask them to
Give
vote
up
the
a
way we,
position.
to give up a position.
To have a true citizen representation
Okay, this service representation be from who? An appointment
from the board, whoever the board selects, but let it be a true citizen representation,
Clear of each side.
clear of each side.
So that means whatever states there for the.
yeah,
No, no, it doesn't.
It
the
has-
statute,
Okay.
the statute says that the citizen cannot be an employee of the municipality or any other political subdivision.
Yeah,
So
oh,
that's
you mean
already
to say the
there.
retiree shouldn't be a city, yes, of course, yes, a true citizen.
No
Whether it's a
family-
banker, or an attorney, yeah, whatever, same place.
That's what I'm saying, it can't be any city employee other than the 2 appointed,
Like to say that I
It can
retire
be-
and I want to be on the board,
Yeah.
correct.
or a
But
family
what
member,
about relatives?
yeah, family member.
Because
We could say to the first degree or second degree or whatever you want to define it.
Because
No, go ahead,
no, I was gonna say something, but
You know,
the person that was selected. but-
or maybe, to say to the first degree that my husband can't be on the board because I'm a finance director, as an example.
Sure.
Yeah, no, but we're all primos in Laredo and we're all,
Yeah.
so,
That's,
Because
again, that's
that-
kind of,
Huge.
okay,
Somehow
and that's what I'm,
related to firemen.
And that's what I'm saying, let's work on the language, but if we agree that it's a true, whatever.
And I think the idea, and you mentioned, for
Is it?
example,
No.
the mayor's appointee is a person that brings in a lot to the table because he's actually a financial consultant.
But
So-
he's related.
He's,
No, I would love to keep him going
Mhm.
forward. When
but what I'm
after the
saying
mayor
is
leaves,
that
he's a
those
great
those
guy.
other two positions.
But it's
that are
still not a
there-
majority, no matter what we
No,
do,
I'm
it's not a
saying
majority.
It's a majority, but I'm saying the stipulations about being relative. He's related to firemen, the mayor's appointee. The previous mayor before Mr. Pete Sines, his appointee was also related.
But this is the city, we control the city.
This actually says relative who's receiving, like a relative who's receiving benefits, I think. I think that the idea
Not just
is
because they're
to
in this
take,
group, I guess.
to get an objective view
Saying you
of somebody
retired.
who's not going to benefit personally from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like. he
Previous
couldn't be-
mayor's appointee had,
But it's part of the city,
yeah,
it's the city. You get to choose your firefighters, we get to choose our city. We're talking about the citizens.
no, but I'm saying you're
A true
concerned
citizen.
about having, skin in the game happen with the previous mayor appointee.
But for the city, the
But
city
it's
appointee, but
still
not
city.
for,
It's
not the
still city.
citizen
It's still the
appointee.
city.
And it's still skin in the game.
Like the three.
Like the
active
firefighter-
Like the three-
Benefiting directly
We're
from.
not telling you who your 3 active firefighters are.
Not trying to.
And it's actually
I'm
only
just saying
one
that it
because
falls
it's
under
the-
the definition that you're trying to say, if they're benefiting from the retirement system, they shouldn't be on the board.
No, that's only for the two citizen,
Only for the two.
the two citizen
The two appointed citizens.
appointments.
We can always work on the language.
Okay. Do you want to, let's break and start again tomorrow if, start again tomorrow
At 9.
at 9. Okay.
Are you all the articles you're bringing forward?
For today, well, this is for today, we're